stand. Being shortly after 6:30, we'll call the meeting to order and begin with the prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction, which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk, please call the roll.
Counsel Leahy.
Here.
Counsel Leary.
Here.
Counsel Mercier.
Here.
Counsel Milanazzo.
Here.
Counsel Rourke.
Here.
Counsel Samaras.
Here.
Counsel Belanger.
Here.
Counsel Elliott. Mayor Kennedy.
Yeah.
It's 9 present.
Okay, the first order of business is minutes for acceptance. We have the minutes of the Personnel Subcommittee of May 10th, the minutes for the City Council meeting of May 10th for acceptance. We have a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. Any discussion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I
Councilor
could
Milanazzo.
move to suspend the rules and take 2 items out of order, if I could. I'd like to take items 2.1 G, the private dormitory presentation by Vision Development, and then take up the motion 8.2, Councilor Elliott, and take those 2 items out of order, if I could. Suspend the rules.
Okay, if there's no objection by general consent, we'll suspend the rules in order to take those 2 items out of order. Hearing no dissension, we'll first go to item G, which is 2.1, item G, private dormitory presentation by Vision Development Incorporated. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. This is, to me, one of the more exciting projects to come before the city. As we know, one of my hallmarks of my administration is to be making Lowell more of a college town. And one of the ways that we can make Lowell more of a college town is to have college students residing and doing business in close proximity to the downtown area of Lowell. And having had a child attend college, I know he had more expendable income than I had, and I know they can spend and they will spend. So at this point in time, I would like to reintroduce, not that he needs it, but former mayor, former colleague of yours, and now representing Vision Development, Attorney Bill Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Manager, and former colleagues. This is, I guess, my first time back here, and it's a little different being on this side of the rail. But I'm pleased to be here, and we do have some materials to distribute. I'll get them to all the councilors in a minute. So I really do think this is a terrific project for the city. I met Rick Schaefer about 5 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, and he expressed some interest in building private student housing here in the city on the site that's former offices of the Lowell 5, and prior to that, Fred C. Church Insurance, across the street from Lowell High School. I know all of you are familiar with the master plan that the City Council worked so hard on, and one of the key components of that, as it relates to the universities and student housing, was to try and get private student housing that would complement what the university's doing for its students. That would be tax-generating property, and that's the project we have here tonight. Vision Development has done this type of construction over the last, they've been in construction business a long time, but have focused on this at least for the last 10 years or so. They've had success with every project they've done. They've worked, they're based in Pennsylvania, and their first projects were to support student housing in state universities near Pennsylvania. They've recently completed projects with success at Wake Forest University and are here in Massachusetts and ready to open a project in Worcester. And they've told me that everybody who is interested is more than welcome to come visit and see what they've done in Worcester. It's a mill rehab project there. So you've heard me plenty over the last few years, and so I don't think you need to hear from me much more. We do have some slides that we're going to show you that are basically the same things that are on the handouts. And but I'd like you to hear from Mr. Schaefer. He can tell you about a little bit about his project and about his company and what their philosophy is. And then after that, Dan Benoit, the architect, will present just a few of the drawings and what we hope to construct at Merrimack Plaza, and we'll be here to answer any questions if you have any. So thanks for your time. I know this is a busy night. We'll try and be quick. And so I'd like to introduce from Vision Development, Mr. Rick Schaefer. Rick.
Thank you, Bill, and I want to thank council for giving this opportunity to be able to come in and introduce ourselves in a public forum. My name is Rick Schaefer. I am the owner of Vision Properties. I round down to 40 years in business now. I live my life very simply by a very simple code, and it's God first, family second, and my occupation and profession third. That being said, I'd like to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for the opportunity he presents to me tonight to come in here and meet with you folks. And surely weren't expecting a crowd here, but I'm just very grateful for everything he does in my life, and all things come through him, and everything I do, I try to glorify him in my actions. When I get to my family, I'm very blessed to have a wife. I have 5 children. I have 6 grandchildren, and number 7 on the way. We're very blessed in that area, too. I have 5 young adults. They're all good citizens. They work hard, and we're very grateful for that. My business, over a 40-year period, we have done just about every type of construction that's out there. I am a hands-on builder developer. I'm not the belt suspenders and the tie guy. I dress up every now and then, but day to day I'm a boots and jeans guy. I spend currently fly in Sunday evenings to Boston and spend 5 days a week in Worcester, where we're currently renovating a 100-year-old mill. The Osgood Bradley building, if you're familiar with Worcester at all, we're right alongside the new train station, what they renovated. We have our first young adults moving in June. It's a 251-bed facility, and we're very proud of what we've accomplished there. We've managed to do that construction in 10 months. And part of that is Mr. Dan Benoit, who is one of Worcester's best resources. I don't know if they're totally aware of that, but Dan has been very instrumental in establishing relationships with us. We're qualified contractors, knowing the culture of the city and how to work around the city. So I was very, very blessed to have Dan at the building. A gentleman named Paul Morano, who is Assistant of Economic Development in Worcester. Also, my historic tax credit guy, Scott Butcher, and Albert Rex, who is our historic consultant, all came with the building, so it was a nice purchase. That being said, we're very excited about coming to Lowell. We are going to attempt, once we get through the approval process, to construct a 205,000 square foot facility. It'll be a 438-bed facility with a lot of amenities, which Dan will go into when I'm through here. But development has to be a win-win for everybody. The director of development for us, a gentleman named Frank Warren, met with UMass Lowell a few times, and we kind of got what they were looking for, or what they looked for in a product, which is a little bit different than what we normally would build. What we normally build is a bed-bath parity, where every bedroom has its own bath. So there's suites within the suites. What we found, because of the demographic of the school, we are going to have 24% of our rooms that will be shared. That's a little bit different than our normal model. but it'll make it more affordable for the young adults who attend UMass Lowell. So I could go on, but again, my main reason for being here is just to thank everyone for Lowell. We've been well received by your department heads. It seems like we're going to have a good working relationship with everyone, and we're very excited. We're hoping to get under construction sometime in June and bring the facility on for the fall of 17. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll be brief, but the elevations you see up here are the front of the building. One of the things, in meeting with the Historic Commission here locally, Steve Stoll, one of the things we addressed was the view corridor of the canal. And the site had a former mill building there with a clock tower. So we tried to represent that here with a vertical element to represent the clock tower. And then this area here is a study area so that students can look out over the canal looking downtown. There's a mix of units, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 4 bedroom units. The first floor has a drop-off area. Right at the end of the right-of-way there. And that's where all the amenities will be. There'll be a lounge, a workout room, computer study area, gaming room, as well as the bedrooms, the units on the first floor. All the units are fully furnished. There's Wi-Fi, so the students just come and move in. They don't need to bring furniture or anything like that. These renderings are actually from the Worcester project, but just to give you an idea of what the finishes are, this is the lounge area for the students. There's a full kitchen there for students to help themselves to make food, have parties, so forth. It's the weight room. It's a full weight room, real gym. This is a typical living space, living area, kitchen, dining area. Thought I had another one of those, but I don't. But I have the site plan here that shows the drop-off area. So it's a complicated project, a lot of moving parts, but we're moving in the right direction, and we look forward to continue working with you.
So we'd be happy to answer any questions, just so you know where we are in the process. We were at the planning board last night, fairly well received there. Visions project should come fully staffed with student assistants, with adult supervision 24 hours a day. The planning board, under the special permit they have to give, wants to see all the details of that. Vision runs its own shuttle service. We're going to provide those details to the planning board. So all of that is under review with the planning board. We need a special permit for the use from the zoning board, where we're going to be Monday night. And because of the proximity to the canal, we'll need Conservation Commission approval. And because we're in the downtown historic district, historic board approval. But Vision's first connection with Lowell was through Steve Stoll at a conference where Vision was accepting an award for their historic preservation work. And Steve was at the conference and encouraged these folks to come to Lowell. So we anticipate the historic, we've had many discussions, and the historic board, at least informally, is enthusiastic about the design and the project. So, so that's where we are. We hope, a few weeks from now, we're much further along and ready to begin. But I appreciate the opportunity to come here and see my former colleagues and just bring you up to date on what we think is going to be a very good project for the city.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Councilor Leahy. And then Councilor Belanger.
One, to, Mr. Mark, Is there any parking with the site plan? So where's the parking? There's no parking?
So, under the zoning, there is parking in the front. If you look at that plan, there are some cars on the other side of the canal. That's part of this project. There's parking for 48 cars there, and if you notice, right to the left is the parking garage, and we have approval from the city to use an allocation of spaces in that garage.
Okay, thank you.
Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For starters, I'd like to welcome back Councilor Martin back to the chambers. And along with that, he comes with these bearing great gifts with such a wonderful project here in the city that fits the bill with the manager's administration's vision as well as the council of a college town. This is high-end housing here, right on the fringe of the downtown, and I think it could be very, very helpful. So this is hopefully all goes well. It's going to be a very, very positive project for our city. But I do have a few questions. Councilor Leahy answered one about the parking. Now, where were we? Do we need zoning approval too, as far as the land use boards? Mr. Mayor, through you to Councilor, Mr. Martin.
So the zoning allows for private student housing with the special permit from the Board of Appeals. So we've applied for that permit, and that hearing is Monday night.
Okay, great, thank you for reiterating that. Now, this, obviously, your clients are really thinking a lot of our city and making a huge investment. Now, obviously, they think this is without a solid commitment from the university that they can make this project work. So is that?
Yes, I mean, will work as closely with the university as they want, and, but the university is interested, I think, in filling its own housing first.
Correct.
But that's been our model in the other locations we're in, and it's worked well.
Excellent. Well, they know their business better than ours, so this is very thrilling. It seems like lately every week something very positive is happening here in the city, and this just simply adds to it. So, Mr. Martin, we thank you and your clients for investing in Lowell, and we will be with you throughout this whole process to help you along. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Council Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy, and welcome back, Councilor Martin. Just a question in general. Are these going to be for graduate students, or would it be freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors? Any type of group, in other words, grouping married couples?
Well, again, as I'm getting accustomed to Massachusetts and Massachusetts law, obviously we do not have the right to discriminate against anyone. Right, so we have fair marketing practices in place. When we get our approvals, part of what I try to emphasize is that we are a purpose-built student housing facility, okay? But that still does not allow us not to entertain people who would attempt to apply or be part of our facility. That being said, anybody that does come has to be willing to do a criminal background check along with credit. And, we try our best to keep it amongst young adults, students, and we do, we welcome young professionals in that same age bracket, if you would. Our facility in Worcester right now, we were quite surprised where we have quite a few residents from UMass Medical that are living in our facility or will be living in June 1. We have grad students from Mass Pharmacy School that will be living in there, along with students from Becker Assumption College. So, hopefully we are able to create a student community, but we have to be very careful at how we go about that.
Okay, I was just asking, there are some sites where we'll say it's for graduate students only, or that type of thing. So basically, it's going to be students from the University of Lowell, but students from Middlesex Community College could apply also, and young professionals, I mean, if you want to look at it, that type of environment. Okay,
That's
thank
correct,
you.
sir.
Thank you very much for the information.
Okay, any further discussion? Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we know how many parking spaces we need in the garage?
The director of development for our company, Frank Warren, has been working with the gentleman who controls the parking. The last that I know of, I believe that we have 150 reserved spots in the garage next door to us.
Which is the Ayotte garage?
That's right.
in between us and the Sangus Center.
Right,
that
the
garage there.
Ayotte garage.
Okay? We have 48 right out in front of our property, and there's 2 other locations in town that Frank is currently working and trying. Our goal would be, if we can, to try to secure 1-to-1 ratio, bed to parking spot. Whether or not we'll be successful with that, we don't know, but we're working with the city to try to accumulate as many as we possibly can.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager, do we know how many parking spaces Lowell High School teachers need for that garage? Or is everybody all going to be able to fit happily in there?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, through you.
Mr. Manager.
Yes, because with the flow of the different traffic, people leaving during, that are going to work outside of Lowell, opening up spaces for individuals, because we feel that 100 spaces are what the central administration needs for the school department, and we can accommodate them in the Ayotte garage also.
Right.
And we'll also be able to accommodate this development also.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? I have probably just 3 or 4 questions that I'd like to ask, as long as at the question period. First of all, let me just say that, I've been advocating for privately owned dormitories for a long time, and so I think that this is good because this property will be on the tax roll and it helps to expand the tax base. The second thing that I like about the project is that it puts a large amount of students close to the downtown area, which I think is good for the city and good for the central business district overall. But one of the questions I had, you seem to imply that when you were talking about discrimination, what could happen is this building would have to be open to people that weren't students too. Isn't that what you mean? And so I guess if that's true, what's been your experience in the other communities where you've been? What's the percentage of occupancy that are students?
I'm going to say in most of our facilities, it's about 98 to 99%.
Okay.
And that other 1 to 2% would be young professionals. Okay. You're running a facility like this, and there's trigger points for individuals that might come in and think it's a good idea to live with a bunch of young adults. So naturally, a red flag goes up for you, and you just really look hard at that individual who may want to do that. And you usually can find a sound reason for dissuading that, if you would.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And my second question would be supervision. You won't really have any type of formal relationship with the university, and the university in their dorms has a good amount of supervision built in. So what exactly would your model have for supervision, and can we expect that to be over the long term? In other words, I think when you first open, you're going to have supervision, but what happens 5 years, 10 years down the road? What's been posed to me is, if there was no supervision in the building and the building's filled with 400 students, it could turn into like one giant animal house, and then all of a sudden it becomes a problem for the city. And so can you address that?
Yeah, actually, that is what our product, okay, purpose-built student housing, eliminates Animal House. What happens with our product, a young adult comes in, their parents guarantee the lease. We have student life policies in place. Our staff is trained on crisis management, pairing management, because young adults are coming in and they may be living with, 2 or 3 people that they don't know. So we have a matching pairing. We teach our staff all that. We manage our own facilities. We self-perform the management aspect. My wife, who is a lot smarter than me, handles that aspect of things. We have security cameras in all the common areas, all the hallways, all the stairwells. So we're constantly on tape. We will have security 24 hours a day. When I say that, when I'm saying security, it might not necessarily be an officer, but we will have staff 24 hours a day, whether it's maintenance people, management people. We will have 2 what we call community assistants on each floor. You know, you would call them an RA. In our facilities, we call them community assistants because we want the young adults to realize that even though they're in somewhat of a controlled environment, what we're doing is giving them their first living experience really on their own. They come out to school and they live in the dorm. They're still very strictly supervised. So part of our job and part of what differentiates us from traditional multifamily is we do have a staff, we do have student life, we do have student activities. You know, we have different studies, we have study groups, we have computer lounges, we have areas where if they want to study in a large group, they can reserve rooms. So we very much have a student life policy within our unit. But the big hammer that we do have is parents are guaranteeing the lease. Young adult misbehaves, we dismiss them, the parents still have the pass for the year, so.
Okay. And then my last question is, assuming that everything goes well as you go through the process, when would construction begin, and when do you imagine that it would be finished, that you'd be open?
Well, if we're successful, we would hope to start June of this year doing the demo, and what we're going to do, and I won't bore you with a lot of construction details, but what we found when we were doing our geotech investigation and our soils investigation, we found the old mill on the site still. So as we excavate, in lieu of trying to transport soils and things from the site, because as we learned in Massachusetts, you cannot cross-contaminate contamination. So we would literally have to find another site where we would be able to dump our spoils with the same contaminants, which can get very expensive and not very practical. So the decision that we made is to grind everything up on site, okay, restabilize the soils and try to balance the site so we won't have anything leaving the site. So we hope to start that in June. I had a meeting today with my prime contractors, and we feel that we can do a 12-month schedule. So our hope would be to open for the fall of 17.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any other questions? If not, thank you very much for coming in, and good luck as you go through the process.
So, just want to say thanks for your time, and also the manager and all the department heads we've met with have been very accommodating. We were on a tight schedule, and so we do appreciate everybody's efforts in trying to work with us on getting this project to where it needs to be approved. So thanks again, and glad to be back here.
Well, let me join my colleagues in saying it's good to see you back here. So. Okay, moving on, we have City Council Motion 8.2, which is a co-sponsored motion. Councilor Mercia has informed the clerk that she does not wish to be a co-sponsor to the motion, so the motion would require a second. It's a motion by Councilor Elliott that reads, request that the City Council adopt a resolution to oppose the transgender bill adopted by the State Senate, which allows access to women's bathrooms and locker rooms. Do we have a second? We have a second by Councilor Mercia. Councilor Elliott.
Mr. Mayor, I believe there's a number of speakers that are registered to speak, so I would...
I think there's 25 speakers registered to speak, so I just... I wanted to give you the opportunity to speak first.
No, they've taken their time to come down here, and I would humbly yield the floor to them. I'll speak after.
All right, so let me just point out to everybody, we have 25 speakers. We have a 5-minute rule that will be enforced, and it would be greatly appreciated. With 25 speakers, it's going to take a long time, so I would greatly appreciate if everybody would hold their applause for each individual speaker so that we can move through this process a little more quickly. And with that, would the clerk please call the first speaker?
Alex DeFranzo.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. You didn't get that memo. Please, no clapping until it's all done, okay? All right, go ahead, sorry.
I'd like to start by saying that the irony is not lost on me that today is Worldwide Anti-Transphobia and Homophobia Day, and also that proposal that will bring potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue to this city is being done in front of a group of people that had to come here to oppose something that I think most of the people here find quite offensive and hurtful. For many years now, our city has marched forward. We have marched forward to the beat of progress to build a more beautiful city, a safer city, a city welcoming to businesses, to art, and to culture. We have looked to the future and constructed it in our vision and in our reality from the roots of our past. It is the efforts of this council, of our city manager, and of the organizations and citizens of Lowell that have pushed our progress forward. And at the root of it all, there is only one thing that can halt our progress and that can stop our forward motion, and that thing is fear. I had the opportunity, before the meeting began, to speak with a couple of the councilors, and from what I understand, Councilor Elliott is not going to withdraw the motion, but there is a possibility that there may be an alternate motion put forward. So I will continue with the rest of the things that I had intended to say. This is not the first time that the toilet has been the battleground for civil rights and for human rights. Adding the words gender identity to the MGLs to stop discrimination in public accommodation is not going to develop a new class of previously law-abiding pedophiles and rapists. The suggestion is simply empirically false. Opposing the Senate Bill S735 will, however, turn people away from our real estate, businesses away from our city, and patrons away from our businesses. And much worse, it will say to every trans child, teen, and adult in our city that they are not welcome here, that they are not loved, accepted, included, or supported. They will be pushed to the fringe of our city and be made even more vulnerable than they already are. That is not the message that I want my city to send. The last time I stood before this council was almost a decade ago. An encampment of homeless were inhumanely removed from the property of a development of then-Councilor Alan Kazanjian. When the chambers here were filled with the homeless and their advocates, only one councilor addressed them. It was Rita Mercier. Councilor Mercier stood and said that the voices of these people are worth just the same as yours or mine, and they deserve our dignity and respect. I remember it vividly because to me, it was an inspiration. When we send the representatives of our city to Beacon Hill to ask for support in improving our infrastructure, let's not send them with a note of opposition, but instead one of support. I ask the councilors, the other 8 councilors here tonight, to undo the damage that has already been done simply by putting this motion forward. Let us show the Commonwealth and the nation that we are a city of love, of unity, and of equality. Let us join the 300 cities across this nation that have already pledged their support to the transgender community. I ask of one of you now to file an alternate motion in support of the Massachusetts Senate Bill S735 and to make clear where our city stands. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Joy Mussenfielder.
Good evening, members of the council.
Excuse me, could you state your name and address at the beginning?
Thank you. Joy Mosenfelder, 85 Royal Street. Good evening, members of the council and assembled others. My name is Joy Mosenfelder, and my preferred pronouns are she and her. I'm here tonight because I support the Commonwealth's efforts to protect transgender members of our community from discrimination. I understand that some of you are concerned about the safety of women like me, should the Transgender Anti-Discrimination Act pass, fearing that predators will use the bill to gain access to women's restrooms. I am concerned about women's safety too. The stats are startling. Women like me face a 17.6% chance of being victims of rape or sexual violence in our lifetimes. That's about 1 in 6 of us. And yeah, that's scary. But I'm not scared of the trans woman in the bathroom with me. I am scared for her. If I was a transgendered woman, that number would spike significantly. Transgender individuals face a 64% risk of rape or sexual assault. Transgender people are also part of our human family. They are our parents, our children, our cousins, our friends, and our neighbors. They live rich, deserving lives when they are supported. However, They face so many challenges due to the intense stigma and discrimination they face as individuals and a community. Rates of homelessness, poverty, chronic illness, chronic unemployment, and suicide are much higher in the transgender community than in the general population as a direct result of discrimination they face, in addition to being much more likely to be targets of violence and harassment. Don't transgender members of our community deserve protection too? They are some of the most vulnerable people among us. The community is so small and the violence so prevalent that every year transgender rights groups do their best to compile and maintain a running list of transgender individuals who have been killed, a challenging task as these deaths are often incorrectly reported under the victims' old names and gender identity by law enforcement and the media. Since the beginning of 2016, these are the confirmed members of the transgender community who have lost their lives to violence. Monica Loera, a 43-year-old woman of North Austin, Texas, who was fatally shot in front of her house on January 22nd. Jasmine Sierra, a 52-year-old woman in Bakersfield, California. Her body was found on January 22nd, showing signs of trauma. Local media had identified her as male and used her birth name. DeMarcus Stansberry, a 30-year-old African-American man of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who was fatally shot on February 27th. Some media identified him as a woman and used his former name. Caden Clark, a 24-year-old man with Asperger's in Arizona, fatally shot on February 4th by police. Some media reports identified him as a woman and used his former name. Kaderi Kadisi Johnson, a 16-year-old African-American gender-fluid teen, shot and left in an alley on March 2nd in Burlington, Iowa. Courtney Yochum, a 32-year-old woman of color, murdered on March 23rd in Los Angeles. She was out walking her dogs when a man came up and shot her in the head. Maya Young, a 25-year-old woman of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, who was fatally shot and stabbed on February 22nd. Veronica Banks Cano, found dead at 9 a.m. on February 19th, fully clothed in a bathtub on the 3500 block of Roosevelt Avenue on the south side of San Antonio, Texas. Shanti Thompson, 34-year-old woman who was beaten and fatally shot along with a male friend in Houston, Texas on April 11th. Witnesses report the pair was swarmed by a group of 8 people on the side of a Midtown roadway. Kiona Blankley, 22-year-old woman in Roxville, Maryland on April 16th with trauma to the upper body indicating she had been beaten and murdered. Reese Walker, a 32-year-old woman of color in Wichita, Kansas. According to local media reports, Walker was killed on Sunday, May 1st by a 16-year-old who has been charged with second-degree murder in connection with her death. There are so many people I love who identify as transgender, gender fluid, non-binary, or otherwise gender non-conforming. I live in fear of the day I see one of their names on a list like this, or I see a report of violence from a town I've lived in. Anti-discrimination laws like the one that passed our state Senate last week are an important step towards protecting our friends and family in the transgender community. I urge this council to support the Massachusetts bill and protect the rights of transgender individuals in our city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Charlotte Renaud Karagianis.
My name is Charlotte Renaud Karagianis, and I live at 199 Stackpole Street, 11852. I thank you for your time today, and it means a great deal that we have this body that will hear us. And I thank those who have already spoken and those who will speak, and certainly educate you on something you clearly know nothing about. I come here tonight as a Lowellian, as a member of the LGBT community, and mostly as a human. We are all in here humans. I come here as a person who has shared many a bathroom with trans people. And in sharing said bathrooms, I have recognized that someone in that room is in danger, and that person is not me. I come here knowing many survivors of sexual abuse, who are not abused by strangers lurking in the bathroom, but by family members, by friends, by teachers. I come here with ease because, quite frankly, I can navigate this world more easily as a cisgendered woman. Counselor Elliott, you are uneducated on this matter. And I'd like to urge you to use your smartphone or the library adjacent to this building to figure out what's going on. Your ignorance is apparent, and it is dangerous. Trans people are not aggressors by virtue of their gender identities. The bill passed by the Senate explicitly seeks to protect civil rights. It does not leave any room for predation or the protection of abusers. I understand that you have sisters, a wife, a daughter, granddaughters, but so do we. So do trans people, and trans people are those sisters, mothers, and granddaughters. Learn more to protect your family. Let knowledge pave the way rather than letting baseless fear entrap us. Calling for trans people to use separate bathrooms, as I've heard you say that that's all you're calling for, is a disturbing idea. Have you not heard that we in the US already tried segregating bathrooms? That we believed we could create facilities that were separate but equal? Again, I urge you to visit the library. Counselor Mercier, I see you attend the Take Back the Night event annually. And often that event is kicked off by passionate words spoken by you, but you cannot be an ally and work to stop sexual violence when it is convenient for you and when there is applause waiting at the end of your words. Counselors, have you ever felt an extreme urge to pee? And everywhere you go, you can't find a bathroom? Imagine looking at 2 bathrooms in front of you and still feeling like you can't find a bathroom. Can you imagine not feeling that you can even relieve yourself of urine or feces because you've heard too many true anecdotes about people doing just that and losing their lives? Members of the City Council, I urge you to do what has already been asked and not only reject this motion, but to propose another one in its place. Please destroy this motion before it destroys the health and safety of members of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Renee Jazanis.
Renee Jasanis, I live on 668 Princeton Boulevard, Unit 4. Good evening, counselors. I want to start with a quote from the Lowell Sun. Quote, "This is nothing about people who are transgender. I understand and support transgender people, but we have a duty to protect people who are vulnerable." End quote. Everyone in this room can understand the basic need to go in an urgency to pee, to use the restroom. We all need to use the restroom. Being forced to use the wrong restroom increases the threat of violence, harassment, and humiliation to the transgender community. Relegating trans people to separate bathrooms is an exclusionary and unnecessary expense that many businesses cannot afford, especially given that trans people have already been using said bathrooms for decades, relatively unnoticed. This bill and this motion have everything to do with transgender people. But this bill is about far more than bathrooms. This law provides essential accommodations and public access to things that we take for granted every day. Grocery stores, public transit, medical services, ambulances. And that's just a few. These protections should not be taken away due to an alleged safety issue, which in the 17 other states and dozens of cities in this Commonwealth has been proven to be baseless and uninformed. With this motion, the city would have turned their backs on what truly is one of the most vulnerable communities in this great city. I have been threatened, humiliated, called terrible things just simply for walking down Middlesex Ave. People shouting threatening things at me from the safety of their cars. clerks denying me, giving payments to buy services and buy groceries, buy milk. To oppose the public accommodations bill is to send a message to this city that unnecessarily puts transgender individuals and gender nonconforming individuals directly in harm's way. This motion will have unintended consequences that sends a dangerous message to the Commonwealth that the man who shouted at me from his car in Middlesex is in the right, that every merchant who has denied me services is in the right, and that is not right. There is a lot to like about Lowell, so the billboard says, but there is nothing to like about discrimination. Thank you for your time, and I hope you support the Transgender Public Accommodations Bill.
Thank you.
Troy Betancourt.
Hello. Troy Betancourt, 1955 Middlesex Street. I brought copies of some very, very, very old articles that I think some of you may remember, especially Councilor Mercier. I think you were around back then. It was the summer of 1992. I was in between my sophomore and junior year at Lowell High School, and I had attended my first gay pride rally in Boston. Secretly, my parents didn't know. My picture happened to appear in the Boston Globe that Sunday, so when I came home on the train, after the train, my parents kicked me out for being gay. I was homeless. Adults in my life tried to help me out and find me social service places to go. DSS, DCF is what we call it today. After a long hold and struggle, told me they couldn't help me because they couldn't put me with the girls because I was a boy, and they couldn't help me, they couldn't put me with the girls. I mean, they couldn't put me with the girls because I was a boy, and they couldn't put me with the boys because I was gay. That kind of ignorance and discrimination back in 1992 still exists today. If you read that article and look at it, where it says gay teens face bias in Lowell, that was the cover of the Lowell Sun article in 1992. It was a group of gay teens from Lowell and our surrounding towns, Tingsboro, Dunstable, who appeared at public hearings like this and testified when Representative Byron Rushing introduced a sexual orientation student rights bill at the time. If you look at the New York Times article, in that December of 1992, Governor Welch signed that bill into law. It was House Bill 3353. It was the first bill of its kind in the country. Wisconsin followed soon after, Hawaii, Colorado, Vermont, etc. Back then, the opposition's argument was that we were trying to turn kids gay in high school, but what it really did was it legislated the Safe School Initiative against anti-bullying around gay and lesbian kids. Fast forward to 2004, actually 12 years today, May 17, 2004, Massachusetts was the first state in the country to legalize same-sex marriage. We are a state of firsts, and Lowell belongs with that being of firsts. We were the first planned city in the United States. We conceptualized the phone number right here in this building, I believe, and we should be proud of our hometown. I don't believe that my city, the city that I grew up in, wants to perpetuate any kind of discrimination, however it's masked, unfounded, and it's clearly biased. It's clearly a hateful opposition that's being proposed. We should really stand on the right side of history, and we should jump off what we've accomplished in the past and really support this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
April Starr.
Why don't we skip ahead to the next one? They're coming down. Oh, she's right here.
My name is April Starr, and my address is 230 Gorham Street. And I'm in support of this motion to oppose the state bill. I would like to share just a few facts, statistics, and quotes, even from the transgender community, to point out why the state's bill is so wrong. I think some of the most poignant quotes are from the transgender community. The fear of danger is not that the transgender individuals themselves are dangerous, but rather that it opens the door, very literally, for sexual predators to pretend that they are transgender, just to gain access to a private space where children and others are so vulnerable. And this has already been happening in other states since they put these measures into effect. Jacqueline Sephoris Andrews is a man who identifies as a transgender woman and says this: I'm a trans woman and a parent, but I totally reject this law. It's a law that allows any man to be able to say he's a woman and access women's spaces. In a time when so many sexual assaults go unreported, we're telling them that boundaries don't matter. When we say no, people won't listen. They'll be blamed for being uncomfortable. I think it's time we care for women and children. We care for the concerns of women and children, care for the safety of women and children. Passing this law is not the way to do it. The New York Times reports that nearly 1 in 5 women are sexually abused in their lifetime, while on the other hand, it is estimated that 0.3% of the population is transgender. The fact that this is a small statistic does not at all mean that those people don't matter. Of course not. But these statistics do bear out, I believe, that this bathroom bill will more often be effective at aiding sexual predators than helping transgender individuals. And the quote from Jacqueline Andrews, that the victims of sexual trauma will be blamed for being uncomfortable, is so true. I know someone personally who was abused as a child and said this about letting men into women's restrooms. Victims in fear, people to whom something was done. We didn't have a choice, and among women, that's a large population. By force, are being told we are hateful and must be put into dangerous scenarios. The sexual abuse, was forced on me, and this whole thing feels like society is forcing me to be quiet and take it again. Everyone needs a place to use the bathroom, but making the bathroom is the pivotal piece of a societal plan that suddenly allows anyone to enter locker rooms and bathrooms where children are undressing is just not a good solution. Just as our Declaration of Independence affirms, we are all created equally by God, and causing one person to be in danger just so another person can feel more comfortable is not equal rights. The fact is, too, that this bathroom discussion is just a piece of a larger puzzle, and one that may feel compassionate, but actually has the opposite effect. I would really encourage any of you to look up the article, I Was a Transgender Woman, by Walt Heyer. That's Heyer. He speaks vividly and personally as to the damage that is done when transgenderism is pushed so heavily, both in families and in society, and he tells of his journey through transgenderism. I thought one of his statements was particularly poignant. Instead of encouraging them to undergo unnecessary and destructive surgery, let's affirm and love our young people just the way they are. The American College of Pediatrics has even come out to say that the encouragement of transgenderism in children is child abuse. And to quote Jacqueline Andrews, as before, who is currently transgender, quote, the transing of children is child abuse. So while it may be touted as being compassionate to champion this, the opposite is true in needing to affirm that they are loved and that they should not need to change genders. This bathroom bill is highly dangerous on a number of levels, and it is not right to enable sexual predators in the name of a small minority that chooses to be transgender. And as an active citizen of Lowell, as a mother, as an artist and a small business owner here in Lowell, but most importantly, as a follower of God, I support this motion to oppose it.
Thank you.
Nancy Green.
Hi. Hi, my name is Nancy Green. I live at 732 Princeton Boulevard, number 13. You might not recognize me without my clipboard, but I promise no shameless autograph seeking tonight. My friend Ruth couldn't be here today due to a panic attack surrounding this issue, but I wanted to read her words for those gathered here. Ruth asks that her identity not be made public because she finds, unfortunately, that there are those who have uninformed opinions of people like her. So Ruth is not really her name. Ruth writes, as I understand it, most people have what amounts to 2 concerns about bathroom and locker room access. The concerns all circle around trans women because I believe at the heart is a belief that we are not really women. Further, many people have the belief that our transition and our actions are somehow motivated by sex or by libido. I'd like to start by setting this straight. Most people, including me, transition because we simply have run out of options. The other choice is often being dysfunctionally depressed or suicidal. It is not a glad choice. I waited a decade after this resurfaced as an adult before the pressure built to where I had to say something. I hit rock bottom. Cross-hormone therapy by itself reduces libido to very low levels because most people need both estrogen and an androgen blocker. Taking an androgen blocker is also known as chemical castration. We do this willingly because we need the results. No man would do this. In fact, being happy on cross-hormone therapy is actually a diagnostic for having made the right choice. So right there, trans women aren't sexually assaulting anybody because an androgen blocker equals chemical castration. Regarding the concern that men might dress as women for the purpose of sexually assaulting women in restrooms or locker rooms, this is preposterous. The last thing a rapist wants is not to be taken seriously. Sexual assault is all about control, absolute power, and stilling fear. Is a man who identifies as a man really going to don a dress and heels to inspire fear and submission in his victim? Never. This isn't happening now, and it won't happen after Massachusetts passes its transgender protection bill. Returning to Ruth's words, we usually lose many people in our lives, often our families and our marriages, not a choice most like to make. Some lose their jobs, and there is little to no protection. In some states, it can be done openly with no recourse. We can lose our housing, be turned away from stores, restaurants, and even from that most basic need, a bathroom. People are worried about a non-issue. Women and trans women have been sharing bathrooms for decades without incident. The incidents that have occurred have been trans women getting assaulted. Locker rooms for women usually have private changing booths. Before I had surgery, I would change in those. I did not shower in the locker room since it was a public shower. I would have found it embarrassing. Just using the locker room to change isn't much of an issue, though. There is an awful lot of concern over a non-problem and very little concern over our extremely real problems. The rate of homelessness for LGBT youth is amazingly high. LGBT youth are assaulted much more, have more issues with substance abuse, and are at a 4 to 8 times the risk for suicide. I would like to humbly suggest that the energy being wasted on worrying about women like me be spent on helping kids like those. Very respectfully, Ruth.
Jennifer Macy.
We live at 547 Beacon Street, and we're speaking for the children of Lowell. Hello, my name is Hope Coleman Plord, and I am 12 years old, and I use the pronouns she, her, and hers.
Hello, my name is Sadie Coleman Plord. I'm 11 years old, and I use the pronouns she, her, and hers.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Macy. I am 8 years old, and I use the pronouns she, her, and hers. We introduced ourselves using the pronouns that reflect our gender identity because we were taught by our church community that is the best and most respectful way to make people who are transgender feel included.
When our moms told us about the joint motion in Lowell to oppose the transgender bill passed by the state Senate, we were appalled and embarrassed.
Lowell is my family's home, and to think our city would do this was shocking.
We support the transgender bill because we have been raised and have grown up believing and supporting that everyone is equal and deserves equal opportunities. Who are we to say that people who are transgender are so different from us that they can't even use the bathroom of the gender they identify with?
We are all equal human beings and all deserve to use the bathroom of which we identify. A 2014 survey found that 65% of people who are transgender living in Massachusetts reported being discriminated against in public places. Do we really want to make those numbers rise, especially in our beloved city?
If we want Lowell to stay as great as it is, be as open as possible to everyone, and for people who are transgender to feel safe, then we really need to oppose this joint motion.
In case some of you are questioning why we should support the state Senate bill, we will try to inform you on the actual facts from the research. One myth is that people who are transgender will violate privacy norms in bathrooms. The fact is that people who are transgender are as human as any of us, which makes them as modest as any of us, if not even more modest. They have every reason to protect their privacy because they are often the victims of harassment and discrimination.
We believe that whoever you are and wherever you fall in the gender spectrum, you should be allowed to use the bathroom of your identity.
In 1963, Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity."
Our family chose to call Lowell our home because of its diversity and welcoming atmosphere.
If this motion passes, not only will this bill hurt children and adults who are transgender, but it will hurt our whole community by writing this new discrimination into our city's history.
Thank you for your time.
Tim Starr. Tim Starr.
My name is Tim Starr. I live at 230 Gorham Street. Thank you very much for your time. I'm a husband and a father of two young girls. Our family is very involved in the Lowell community and as patrons of all that this city has to offer, from the canals to the museums, to the shops, to the artist spaces, and we're also involved in many community events. We regularly promote Lowell through social media as an excellent place to live and visit. Recently on a trip out of town, we had friends in places as far as Pennsylvania and Tennessee saying, "Wow, we really want to come visit your city." We feel safe here. Many of our friends who are more familiar with Lowell's more violent and crime-ridden past have questioned our safety and comfort here, but we were able to answer them very positively about our 2 years living here. However, I'm not comfortable with the bill passed by the state Senate because of the compromised situation it would put women and children in. While it may make things easier for transgenders to use the facilities, it is at the cost of the comfort and safety of so many others. And not because transgenders are a threat, not that, but because of men posing as transgenders to take advantage of these new laws. And as absurd and unthinkable as this sounds, it has already been happening. Just in the last few months, there have been documented reports of men posing as transgenders to gain access to women's bathrooms or locker rooms for nefarious purposes. In Toronto, Virginia, Los Angeles, and Seattle, men dressed as women have been caught assaulting, peeping in on, and videotaping women and children. Surely, we can come up with a better solution, like single occupancy bathrooms, for example, something where everyone, actually everyone, can use the bathroom in peace. These other options may cost more to implement, but what price are we putting on the safety of potential victims of sexual abuse? I've heard those in favor of the Senate's bill saying that they want Lowell to be a welcoming place for all to come, but this bill compromises that welcoming atmosphere simply by trading out one uncomfortable situation for another. If you are voting tonight, although I realize I wrote this before the second was removed, so I don't know if this is even a possibility at this point, but if you're voting tonight, please vote with families in mind. And if not, would you consider postponing the vote just to get a better idea of where the community stands on this and additional public consensus? Someone up here has a big yellow sign that says, "I'd rather share a bathroom with a transgender than a bigot." I would rather share a bathroom, and my wife and daughter share a bathroom with a transgender than someone who is posing as such. That topic seems to have been addressed by some of the previous speakers, but surprisingly dismissed. This thing is actually happening, and it does concern me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Laurie Affont.
microphone for the name.
Hi, my name is Loria Font, and I live at 107 Cashin Street. And I am very proud to live in this city. I have lived here for 13 years now, and I own a house here. I pay taxes, and I work here. I identify as transgender, and I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be one of those victims of harassment on the street. I know what it's like not to feel safe in a restroom. I know what it's like to be denied service in a public space. I have lived it for over 30 years. I am 53 years old. My profession is I'm a clinical social worker, a licensed independent clinical social worker. In addition, I am an ordained minister. I am the first transgender person to be ordained as a Unitarian Universalist minister in the United States. So I want to talk first about the clients that I see, many of them who live right here in Lowell. The youngest client that I see is 5 years old. The oldest is 70. All of the people in between are transgender identified people or their parents who are worried about the safety of their children. Now, I want to speak, I have done a training in this city for the city of Lowell, for all of the social workers in the city of Lowell, of how to welcome transgender students in our school and in the school system, and it was very well received. And as you know, our President Barack Obama, just recently passed or sent out guidelines for the nation about how schools can include people who are genderly different. I believe that we are a great city, and I have voted for many of you city councilors sitting around this table, including you, Rita Mercier. I have voted for you for a decade. And let me tell you why, Councilor Mercier, why I have voted for you. You are a strong woman. You are as feisty as they come, and you are the first person to speak out in favor of helping senior citizens in this city. That's awesome. That's one of the reasons I admire you. But as a woman, you also speak out in defense of the vulnerable people in this city. And I can tell you that transgender people are the most vulnerable people in our city. The children and the senior citizens. I have parents that come to me and they ask me to teach their child how to stay safe in a restroom because they are afraid that their child is going to be targeted in a restroom. So I work with the children to teach them the buddy system and how to be safe in a restroom, and especially to speak out if they are bullied in one of our communities. I'm tired of doing this work. I'm tired of having to teach people how to stay safe when they just need to use a restroom. I want to talk also about a practical matter, this third option of creating a separate restroom. A lot of people think that might be a possibility, but I want to caution you. And I want to caution the fiscally minded people around the table that know the limits of financial budgets. Unless you are prepared to build new bathrooms in every public area in this city, this bill would be just ridiculous. So what I'm saying is, unless you're willing to build a new bathroom here at City Hall, at the police station, at every fire department, I know the senior center has what they call a family bathroom, but every school in this city, unless you're prepared to do this, this bill of having a third possibility is not workable. So financially, I don't think this city is prepared to do that. But I want to talk about ethics for a second. I'm a Christian.
Excuse me, your 5 minutes is up. Can you wrap it up?
I will.
Okay.
As a Christian, I believe that we are all created in the image of God, including transgender people. And transgender people need to be treated with dignity. I urge you to not pass this motion and to pass a motion to support the public accommodations bill in Massachusetts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Deborah Fowler.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Fowler. I reside at 27 Jackson Street with my beautiful wife, Dee. The real issue in front of us tonight is not about access to public accommodations, not really. The deeper issue is about a lack of education about gender, about transgender people, through a biological and anthropological lens of understanding. I taught at Lowell High School for 10 years within the ELL department, and I also developed and taught Lowell High School's first gender and identity class. I would often say to my students in a cautionary regard the following: the advancement of time is not necessarily commensurate with the advancement of social justice and equity. Now, we cannot attach today's language to the past, as that would be irresponsible and ahistorical. But people who we label and understand today as transgender have always existed in every nation, in every belief system, in every ethnicity. And until relatively recently, in our historical record, they have been revered and regarded as a gift to the community. The pathology in our society today that has refused to acknowledge the spectrum of gender, in the same blind way that it has refused to acknowledge the spectrum of sexual orientation, is responsible for the pretext of potential predation as a reason to oppose the transgender public accommodations bill. I understand that the premise of this motion is safety, protecting women and children from sexual predators, not protecting them from transgender people, but it is a faulty syllogism. It is a bathroom predator myth. And this motion, in essence, continues to marginalize transgender people who have suffered too much for too long. The path to understanding and mitigating unfounded fear is through education. Everyone needs and deserves educational opportunities to learn through an academic, scientific, and cultural lens about various gender expressions and gender identities. I am a co-founder of History Unerased, which is a nonprofit based here in Lowell that is dedicated to preparing K-12 educators to teach every child about the vital role lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer history and people have played in our nation and world. We believe, we know, we have witnessed that learning and understanding this history dispels myths and misperceptions, empowers everyone, and creates safer schools and communities. The motion to oppose the Transgender Public Accommodations Bill regarding bathroom access and promote a separate but equal alternative is miseducative, and the message it conveys would disrupt the progression toward social justice and equity. I implore you, all of you, to stand on the right side of history tonight, to stand with the transgender community and its allies, and to allow for this moment in time to advance social justice and equity. I'm going to conclude with the words of Robert Gates when he was speaking about the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. This will not be the wrenching, traumatic change that people expect. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mariana Sullivan.
Hi, thanks very much for the opportunity to speak. I'm Mariana Sullivan. I live at 27 Jackson Street, also with my beautiful husband, Joel. I was born and raised in Lowell. I have 3 kids that went through the Lowell Public Schools. My husband has a practice in Lowell, and I served on the Lowell School Committee during a time when some counselors and school committee members also had some separate but equal ideas that were overturned. And I'm going to be brief. I would just like to quote one sentence from Loretta Lynch's message to North Carolina. This is about far more than bathrooms. This is about the dignity and respect we accord our fellow citizens and the laws that we as a people and a country have enacted to protect them, indeed, to protect all of us. It's about the founding ideals that have led this country in the direction of fairness, inclusion, and equality for all Americans. I serve as the Chief Medical Officer for Lay Health Behavioral Services. I've spent 30 years in the field of psychiatry studying human behavior, and arguments against the current Mass Senate bill have no basis in reality and are the product of fear and prejudice, and as many speakers have already said, of ignorance. And I implore this council to make a substitute motion to support the Senate bill, to support our Attorney General and our President in protecting some of the most vulnerable citizens in our country and in our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joel Epstein. Joel Epstein. All set?
He's all set.
All right. Sage Mastakoris.
Hi, my name is Sage Mastakoris. I'm not actually from Lowell, but this is, it's a human problem. It doesn't really matter if I live in Lowell because this is a problem that affects all of us. I've spent the last year in New York City going to school, and that is a place that people mostly regard as intimidating. And it may be at night if you're walking around alone, but during the day, walking down the street, you can tell that people aren't intimidated, especially to be themselves. And when I came back here, the first thing that I expected, after not even being back here for a week, was to find that I have discrimination back where I grew up. As someone who, I'm a part of the LGBT community in that I'm a lesbian and I have people in my family and a lot of my friends who are. And so it hurt me very much to find out that the place that I grew up could be against something that is so integral to human rights. Because this is about human rights. Throughout history, our country has been faced with many problems of human rights and many questions of should we be able to give this group rights that everyone should have, and we've come out stronger and freer as a nation because of those. And I can tell you that as a young adult, looking back onto these issues, the fact that we even had to fight for human rights to begin with is astonishing. The fact that we have to question whether you would give someone, a human being, every single right that they deserve as a human being is disgusting to me. Especially from government officials. I understand that it's happened in the past, and you can say, oh, that happened in the past, they didn't know better, but the fact that it's happening now, it's horrifying to me. Although not all elected officials are like this. For example, like I said, I've been living in New York City for the past year, and just recently they passed a law that you can get fined up to $250,000 for misgendering a transgender person. And that's the kind of defense of transgender people that we need. Like, they're human beings. Like, I'm sorry, I get upset about it because like, as someone who's a part of the community, the idea that it's being challenged is really horrifying. $250,000 could seem excessive if you don't consider the tremendous amount of harassment that transgender people have endured for the past couple of years, and not just couple of years, excuse me, for the past decades, and are still enduring. There are a lot more things that I want to say, but they were definitely covered by the people before me. The last thing that I wanted to touch upon is something that somebody said before. The idea that, I guess that men could go into a bathroom with the idea that they would be posing as a transgender person. If that's happened before, that's awful, that's disgusting. But you can't just deny everyone's rights because of a particular instance. Like, we have people every day that are going in and buying, for example, guns. Like, a certain percentage of those people don't have good intentions for them, but you still give them that right because that's a basic human right. Like, you cannot deny someone's rights just because of an exception of it. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Amanda Rosa.
Hi, my name is Amanda Rosa, and I am 21 years old. I've lived in Lowell for most of my life, and I identify as a lesbian woman. I'm honestly appalled to be speaking about this issue today, but I'm not surprised because this is all rooted in sexism. We live in a class society, and it's created the social construct of sex, and that in turn paved the way to create the construct of gender. It all divides the individuals that are in turn that are born biologically female or male, and it turns them into the social classes called men or women. Without the creation of sex, sexism wouldn't have arisen, but an individual person's sex, as decided by society, doesn't completely determine their relationship to sexism. This designation at birth is only a powerful predictor of the ensuing privileges, socialization, and sex education society places upon someone. We should wholly reject the notions of a hard divide between trans and cis people. Recent studies on gender identity have found that about 33% of men and 38% of women felt as both as a man and as a woman. 41% of men and 47% of women experience themselves to be two genders to some extent. And 64% reported that they sometimes wish to be the other gender. Womanhood and manhood are defined by their existence through each other and their violent struggle against one another. One can't exist without the other. The only progressive way forward is for men to abdicate their patriarchal throne, to consciously decide to fight sexism at every opportunity, including this one, and to politically, materially, and ideologically disassociate as much as possible from their privileged position, masculinity, and exploitation of women. I identify with womanhood because it describes my political experience, and it's the category that is imposed on me. It's not my wish to have to take the time of my day to have to educate the elected officials of my city who are supposed to represent me, and yet here I am. Removing the words gender identity from a gender identity bill seems a little bit redundant now, doesn't it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Duran. Jason Duran.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the council for letting me speak tonight. I'm actually from Woburn, but I'm a student here at UMass, and I just wanted to kind of put my 2 cents out there. I'm a veteran in the United States Army. For the past 4 years before I went back to school here, I did federal contract security for the federal government, even for the Social Security Administration office here in Lowell. I then decided to quit work and go to school full-time for business. And due to that, I am now an intern at the United States Air Force here at Hanscom, doing contracting while continuing to finish my degree. I'm also gender fluid, or gender queer, which is kind of a new term for most people here. That kind of means, I guess, I just like to look a little bit like David Bowie on the weekends. It's pretty much. I just want to go down a couple of things that's been going on right now. On May 12th this week, the Philippines elected their first trans congresswoman. We also know that Louisiana governor signed an executive order protecting LGBT employees. Obama, of course, has been calling these anti-LGBT laws wrong. And the Prime Minister just today, Justin Trudeau of Canada, announced federal legislation to guarantee trans rights. There's a great park here, a national park here in the city of Lowell. And we want the people of the world to come here and visit this great city. But the EU is blasting anti-LGBT laws in North Carolina, Tennessee, and Mississippi, and the UK is warning their citizens traveling abroad about these type of laws. So when you think about affecting one small group of people, you could be affecting other things entirely else. Laws in general haven't been perfect, in history. They've gone from the Dred Scott versus Sanford in 1857 saying blacks aren't going to be citizens, whether they're free or slaves. We heard about Plessy versus Ferguson tonight, separate but equal. And then Bauer versus Hardwick in 1986, which upheld the discriminating Georgia sodomy statute, but that was overturned in 2003 with Lawrence versus Texas. Now, as a veteran, let me just say that 20% of the trans community have served, whether male or female. I think for guys, it kind of like, you want to just be more of a guy and be more masculine and be who you've been brought up to be. For women, I think it's like you get to be something other than a pretty little girl that your parents wanted you to be when you grew up. But that's double the U.S. general population who decided to join the U.S. military. As a student here at UMass, just recently, UMass made 40 gender-neutral bathrooms, which goes against everything the city, well, again, not everything against the city, but that's what this bill is trying to do. A little story, so I got 2 minutes left. My cousin is transsexual, F to M, meaning she wants to be female, go to male. She asked me to go to the Philadelphia Trans Conference this past summer. I wasn't sure what to expect. I went with her, or him, and I was blown away by how young and how much the families are getting involved with these kids. There was 1% who kind of were like the stereotypical, oh, I don't want them in my neighborhood type of thing, you'd see on like Night Court back in '85. But it was great. Jazz Jennings was there. She's a transsexual woman. She has her own TV show, and she talked. There was this one woman, trans woman, and she was saying how just right then at that conference that she got an email from the New York Times saying that they were going to use her letter in the online editorial. And it hurt because what happened was she lost her friends, she lost her family, and she was up there in this conference for trans people, and she just went to her room and cried. And it really hurts because, I'm thinking about the pain in her voice then. And it's a really sad situation. I just think that these people aren't bad people. They just want to be able to go to the bathroom, maybe check their mascara. For some of these guys out there who are trans males, they look like they could kick your ass because they're huge dudes who are on testosterone, and you don't want them going into a ladies' room. They're just, that's what they want to be. They just want to be comfortable. And the one thing, as my time ends now, is it breeds depression, and you feel, it just brings you down. So just please vote against this. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Halzak.
Hi, my name is Dee Halzak. I've lived at 318 Pawtucket Street since June of 1996. And I'm here to speak against the motion. It's unwise and unacceptable for several reasons. First, it opposes a necessary piece of legislation that many people have worked long and hard on, and many people have been waiting years for. I won't go into the reasons why, because others have explained already much more eloquently than I can, but I will say, if we do not protect a group's safe access to public accommodations, we are basically denying them the right to participate in public life. In other words, to fail to protect their access to public spaces is to pretend that that group of people does not need access. It is to pretend that they do not exist, but they do exist. To not only pretend otherwise, but to also set barriers to their interaction with other people and their participation in the public sphere is inhumanly cruel, as well as a denial of the basic rights of citizens. You wouldn't put up with being treated that way, so why should transgender people be expected to? Second, Lowell has a number of attractions that would be threatened should we be lumped by the media with other locations that have made the news by supporting transphobia. The university that plays such an important part in the life of this city, the community of artists who live and work here, the folk festival, and our status as a gateway city that seeks to attract innovators are all elements that thrive best in an atmosphere that welcomes diversity. And they are all elements that could be harmed should a fear-based anti-transgender motion make the city a focus of the wrong kind of attention. Creativity functions best when we don't require that people fit into someone else's little boxes. Third, the motion would expose the city to scorn unnecessarily. There are 13 or 14 other communities in Massachusetts alone, not to mention 17 other states and a couple hundred communities around the country that have already passed ordinances and laws to protect their transgender residents. In the lead up to passage of the Massachusetts bill, representatives from the police in all of the Massachusetts communities with protection have already testified to zero problems having been caused by sharing facilities with transgender and cisgender people. Transgender people are simply not a threat to cisgender people, no matter what the hate groups would have us believe. Fourth, transgender people are at even greater risk when laws and ordinances and motions single them out to deny them protection. That sends a signal to the haters that it's okay to mistreat transgender people. Do you really want to be the cause of more attacks on transgender people in our city? Councilors, you have a choice. You can stand with cities like Boston and Worcester and promote our city as one that welcomes and celebrates diversity and supports protection for the transgender community, or you can make the city an object of scorn like North Carolina by officially incorporating homophobic and transphobic discrimination into city culture. I sincerely hope you choose the path of welcome, because the other path is not a path to growth and greatness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Saber Farmer.
My name is Amy Saber Farmer. I live at 84 Vernon Street in Lowell, and I'm here because when I found out about this, I was appalled and embarrassed that this would be brought up by somebody who was freely elected in the city that I love. My first instinct was, what is going on? How could this possibly be happening in this city? Right at the beginning of your prayer, right at the end, it says that you take a vow, that you hope, that you pray, that whatever you're doing is making Lowell a better place to live. Is this motion to oppose S735 really making Lowell a better place to live? I mean, you've heard from a lot of people tonight, and I'm not going to take up a lot more time. I urge the rest of the council that this is your responsibility as human beings, as people who do not want to use this as a weapon of discrimination to people who already, feel, who are already vulnerable, by definition. For the other people who spoke in favor of this motion, you don't get to speak for me as a woman, okay? We're a lot of survivors of sexual abuse, a lot of us. And we don't stand up and we don't use discriminatory laws to protect our children, to protect my 2 daughters or my son. And whatever pronouns I choose to use are my own. I also identify as a survivor, and you do not get to speak for me and other survivors in this city.
Thank you.
Patricia Coffey. Patricia Coffey.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak briefly. My name is Patty Coffey. I reside at 287 Dutton Street in the city. I also am Assistant Director of Community Relations at UMass Lowell, and that's why I'm here tonight. I will be very brief. UMass Lowell is proud of our record as an inclusive campus where we work to ensure that all members of our community are appreciated and respected. Our official university policy, which has broad support from the campus community, is that individuals should choose a restroom that aligns with their gender identity. In addition, we have recently designated more than 40 restrooms on campus as gender neutral to ensure that all members of our diverse community have access to a restroom in which they feel comfortable. That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone who came out to share their opinions this evening.
Thank you.
Chris Yiannopoulos.
Chris Yiannopoulos. I live at 212 10th Street, Christian Hill. I was born and brought up in Lowell, and I'm still up in Christian Hill. And I think we're fortunate to have a council like Rita. Many other councils here are good, but I know Rita has done a lot for the city, and I want to thank her for what how she has represented us. I like to look at this issue, the biblical side of it. We know God created the world in 6 days. The first day was the water and the land and the sky, and coming down to the sixth day, he created the animals and the birds, male and female. And then he created Adam. And Adam noticed he didn't have a mate with him, so he created a female. And this is how we come down and where we are today, because of Adam and Eve. The animals today still work with male and female. What happened to us? Now, I don't want to say this, Pastor, in a ridicule way. I'm saying this in a biblical way, that there's a problem here. You heard of Sodom and Gomorrah. I know you heard of Sodom and Gomorrah. You heard of Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot went into Sodom and Gomorrah. That was Abraham's nephew. And there was things in there that were so bad.
Just a
that
second.
fire come down and destroyed
Just hold
Sodom
on
and
just one
Gomorrah.
second. It's really hard to come down and speak before the microphone. It's really easy to yell from up there. People that are here for people's rights have to respect even the rights of those who are speaking in opposition to what you think. So please have a little courtesy for the guy.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Anyway, fire come down and destroy the cities because of this type of activity. And the same thing happened with the flood. All I'm saying is, think about this activity that's going on. There's going to be a vote tonight, I understand. We don't want fire to come down. And I'm just saying this. I know it's not going to happen, but biblically, like I said, the animals is still male and female. But I don't know what problem, what happened, the problem with man and woman. Is something to think about. But I just, I'm glad that I had a chance to express this. And I want to express it with love. I don't want to have hatred or criticize whatever it is, but all those, seem like I'm outnumbered, but all those who are thinking the opposite, think about it. Think about your lifestyle. We don't want to go against the Ten Commandments or go against God. It's so important. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott. That concludes the speakers, so we'll open it up to the floor. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So by the number of emails and testimony tonight, and even before this, I know this is a very difficult issue. I know it's very emotional. And I know a lot of the issues that the LGBT community has gone through, which is very unfortunate, are being addressed in this bill. And that's not what my concern about this bill is about. And I was clear in my motion. It's about the bathrooms. And it's about the bathrooms here in Lowell and in Massachusetts and throughout the country. I know how to add. I can tell from the comments in the paper this motion will probably fail. But beforehand, and as I told Alex at the beginning of the meeting, we could withdraw the motion, but people are registered to speak. They have a position, they have an opinion, and so do I, and so do many people that I represent. And I'm going to tell you how many people and how they feel and what they're thinking. And that they don't discriminate against transgender people. But they are concerned. And it's not a myth. It's not fear-mongering. They are generally concerned about allowing males in a woman's and girls' bathrooms and locker rooms. And so am I. It's already been proven to be a place for men to assault women. And it has great potential to open up the floodgates to many more problems. I take exception to those who say that we're not educated. I've been on this council for 20 years. I do my homework before I come and speak on an issue. Every 107 seconds, another sexual assault occurs. There's an average of 293 instances of sexual assault every year. 68% of the sexual assaults are never reported to the police. 98% of rapists never spend a day in jail. I was born here. I married my wife, who's a long-life Lowellian. We raised both of our 2 daughters in Lowell, and now we have 2 granddaughters. And like all true Lowellians, we take pride in our melting pot our city represents. We all come from somewhere else, or our forefathers do. We are all accepting of each generation and every wave of immigrants from all over the world. We stay here because we love our city. In this city, I've learned and I have taught my children that we live amongst many cultures, many peoples. We have many differences. We have many different opinions, and we must respect each other's. I've received many emails with many opinions, and I don't agree with all of them, but I accept them. And what is unfortunate to me are the numerous emails with personal attacks and insults that have been sent, many anonymously. That does nothing to further the conversation or provide any constructive dialogue. It entrenches sides and it pushes people further apart. I'm a citizen of this great city. I'm a taxpayer and I'm an elected official. And if this issue is about civil rights and the rights of transgender and tolerance, it's ironic that the insults level contradict exactly what you're supporting: fairness, acceptance of other people's beliefs and opinions. To say that allowing transgender people to use the bathroom is the same as what our African American brothers and sisters endured cheapens the monumental struggle of civil rights and equal rights. To me, there's no place for for that type of shouting down of an opinion contrary to your own in our city. I may not agree with what you have to say, but I support your right to say it. Mr. Mayor, I've sat here for an hour and
I know
almost 2 hours listening to opinions.
I know you. Just quiet down and let him speak. Go ahead, Counsel.
Your comments make you feel like there's something wrong with those of us that feel that we don't want men in ladies' rooms. You're using words like bigot and racist and ignorant. It's not what this city is about. Other opinions are just as important as yours. I could have sat silent. I could have taken the easy way out. Could have not listened to the people that voiced their concerns to me. It would have been a heck of a lot easier. But I've always taken the road less traveled, and I'm not changing now, no matter how intimidating you try to be in your emails that I receive. I filed this motion in an attempt to ensure the safety and protection of children, of women, of our elderly.
Go ahead, Counsel.
Of women, and those who are preyed upon by perverts, by pedophiles, by stalkers, by sex offenders. And what I'm not saying here is that the transgender community are predators. I don't believe this to be the case at any level. This is not about transgenders attacking women. That's a bait and switch to move us off the subject. That's what the proponents want you to believe. This is a narrative used to change the direction of the discussion. This is about a risk that we put our children and our women in by allowing this. This law opens the door for any creep to go into any bathroom, claim he's transgendered, and no one can contest it. It's basic common sense. I have to live with my But I have to live with my conscience, and I know what I feel I have to do to protect every woman and child. To those who think that those of us...
All right, look, I've been really patient. We listened to 20 people come into the microphone and speak for well over an hour. The public portion of the meeting is over. Now it's the councilor's turn to speak. If we can't have silence, or if we're going to have constant outbursts through the first speaker before we get to any more, we're going to have to clear the chamber, which I really don't want to do. But I have to insist that everybody respect a certain level of decorum and just keep quiet and listen to what everybody else has to say. Go ahead, Council.
Let me turn my fear into reality for you. 3 days ago, 3 days ago, a 33-year-old man grabbed a little girl in a bathroom at a restaurant. He strangled her unconscious. He dragged her into the bathroom stall. 3 days ago, an 8-year-old girl, she went to the bathroom in Chicago. Let me bring you to Alexander Sapp, who was murdered in a Burger King in Bridgewater. Let me bring you to Colleen Ritzer in a bathroom, murdered. Let's look at the city of Seattle case, who approved the change just a while ago, and had a man go into a woman's locker room at a pool, dropped his drawers in front of the women to take advantage of the law, only to return later the same night and do the same in front of the little girl's swim team. He told them the law had changed. He had the right to be there. This is the reality of it. Maybe Canada, where a man claimed to be a transgender, entered into a shelter for women and sexually assaulted them. University of Toronto, we hear UMass Lowell has separate bathrooms. They changed their policy because they had male students filming women taking showers. This is my point. Not that transgenders individuals do not deserve the same protection as everyone else. I've researched the topic. Believe me, it's clear that transgenders are assaulted as well, and it's not acceptable. But we don't solve the problem by creating a bigger problem. And yes, we do have laws on the books to punish perverts, pedophiles, stalkers, perpetrators of sexual violence, and it's not enough. Sexual violence against women in the United States is almost of an epidemic proportion and far more common than previously thought. I happen to think that we're a city and a civilized society that can come to a mutual compromise to craft a law that will accommodate everyone before the unthinkable happens, as it did in Chicago, in Seattle, and in Toronto. Another bathroom is not discriminatory at any level. Women colleges, women who want to go to a college for women are finding ways to resolve the issue without putting people in danger. And they're having gender-neutral bathrooms, just like our own University of Massachusetts here in Lowell. There are thousands of people, many people have contacted me watching this right now. They're entitled to their rights of protection and safety as well, and happen to agree that keeping bathrooms a safe place where they know their surroundings. And so do I. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Councilor Mercia?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just want to clear the air here and just say a few things about what's going on this evening. And I'm sorry that everybody had to come out of their way to be here. But I did make a promise some months ago that I would never, ever let any of my colleagues make a motion that I wouldn't second, because I've been there. See, when you experience something, it hits you much more personally. And many times over the years, I've made motions where I didn't get a second, and it's kind of mind-boggling, because you have an opinion and you like to express it, and you can't because someone stifled you by not seconding it. So that's why I second this motion. I want to say to my colleague, Councilor Elliott, I admire your opinion. You have a right to your opinion. This is your right. We all may not agree on things, and he may be in the minority here tonight, but he has every right to express his view, and I appreciate that, and I admire your courage to do that. But I think you might have misunderstood me when you told me about your motion, and I said, go for it, because that's your opinion. You want to express, I would back you. I would back you by supporting a second here, as I would anybody else. So I admire your courage to do that. I'm going to tell you what I feel about this issue. And when we say we're all created equal, I don't know how I can agree with we're all created equal. I feel that children are born blind, they're born with handicapped, they're born mentally challenged. I don't think that's equal. They're born to drug-addicted parents. I don't know how that's equal, but over the years, we've not been educated enough as we are today. And maybe years ago, my opinion was the perfect family, a mother, father, children, that's opposite sex. That's what it probably was, because that's what we learned. But over the years, we've learned that, and I firmly believe, and I'm not trying to shove my opinion down your throat or hop to you, but this is my personal opinion. I believe that there are people that are born, babies that are born, and as they grow up, they're probably born a male, but they're trapped in that male body and they're really feeling like they're a woman. I believe that. That's my opinion. I don't know if I'm right, I don't know, but that's just my opinion. And I know that if that were me, that I was born a woman, but technically I feel like I'm in the wrong body, I feel that maybe I'm a man, I don't know how that torture could take part in your mind. I'm not in your shoes, so I don't know that. Until I'm in your shoes, and I can relate to that, but I do believe it's happening. But that doesn't make you any less a person than I am being a straight person. It doesn't make me any better than you. And if there's anything in my life, I try to be fair. So I will share a little story with you that there was a line not too long ago, and it was a woman's line. I was going into the bathroom. I couldn't wait any longer. I just couldn't. So I went to the desk at this restaurant. I said, I need a key to the men's room, and I went to the bathroom in the men's room, because it's either that or you know what's going to happen. But I can relate to that. I can relate to it. To think that because a woman is really a man and she's coming into the ladies' room, I don't have a problem with that. I think it's happened right along many years, and people just didn't even realize it. Now that we are more aware of it, we're against it. I think if a man is changed into a woman, I don't know, and needs to go to the bathroom and wants to go into the ladies' room, I'm thinking this is a woman, and you're going to go to the bathroom? But that's my opinion. And I think also that I don't think that because of this gender identity, that because a woman becomes a man now is going to go into a bathroom and sexually assault a child. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I think what we have here is impulse control or lack thereof, and there are bad people in the world. And that's not saying that bad equals gender identity. I don't think that's it at all. But with this motion that I believe is courageous, because that's his opinion, and he has every right, and I will defend it, his right to have that opinion. I don't want to be a part of a decision that harms transgender and inflicts further indignity on a population that has already suffered enough. It's almost, I want you to know the statistics here, and I'm just thinking out loud. People that want to harm children, they're so mentally sharp that they think like this. They want to go where the children are, so they go to the YMCA, they go to be camp counselors, and they're not gender different. They're regular people that have a problem, and this is what happens. So because people are crafty in an evil way, that they think, I want to go where the children are. Children are at camp. Children are at the Y. Do we now close down the Y because this could possibly happen there? No, we don't do that. So I'll leave you with this and say that I don't know how this is going to work out, but I do support the Senate and what their bill is, and that's, I'm sorry you had to come down, but it was very nice meeting all of you anyway, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Council Belanger?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I do want to thank all the, on this issue, all the input this council has had in the last 48 to 72 hours from the several hundred emails that we've all received, as well as the 20-some-odd speakers that have told some rather compelling stories here this evening. Really, you know, I know far more on this issue than I did 72 hours ago, but that isn't saying very much. Here we have a very complex and what can be complicated issue that's evolving, I think, faster than people are. Okay? And I think that's part of the problem. I think both sides need to understand each other. And I think I may be a little guilty of that myself by not being as up on this issue as I should have been. I mean, by right, it probably should not be on this floor. But here we are. So we have all gotten more or less a crash course on this issue, and that's due to the several communicators that have reached out to this council, and I appreciate that and thank them very, very much. But I can see the stories tonight and the emails are very, very compelling. Really, this transgender community feels left out and kicked to the side. Now, if I may make a comparison, the opioid issue that we have in Lowell, two separate issues in a sense, but nonetheless, there's a stigma that has been attached to users and addicts. Okay, that's very, very negative. And this council is working very hard to change that stigma. And it's happening. It's a slow road, but it's happening. And I think the same needs to happen on this issue, that people need to have a better understanding of the transgender community and their struggles and what they've endured in this community and abroad. So I think that's part of the issue here. And I think we all need to take it, as elected officials, take it upon ourselves to learn much more, to know much more on this issue, for starters. So with that being said, you know, the LGBT community has been in our community for a long, long time. And they've coexisted just fine with the other 65 some odd nationalities that reside in this city as well. And we coexist better than anybody. And that's what makes us so great. Okay? Well, Councilor Elliott has a genuine concern. I respect his concern, and I admire his political courage. Let's not forget that he is the former mayor of the city, and he served an outstanding term. No one was left out. Every community, every ethnic group, every activist group, he was there for everybody. Let's not forget that. It was not all that long ago. Councilor Elliott is not a prejudiced or hateful individual. I know his family, he loves his wife, he loves his children, and he loves his grandchildren. He has an issue here, concern. I may not agree with that, but I respect him for it. And I think we all need to do that. Okay? As elected officials, when we make decisions, in our case, it's for 110,000 people. On a state level, it's for 6 million. We have to look at everything, people. Please. An issue like this that's complex and we don't know everything, I certainly don't know everything. We as elected officials have to take a step back and look at everything. Civil rights are paramount. The city will not back anything that's discriminatory or prejudice. That goes without saying. But we need to look at everything, people. So please understand our position as elected officials. We wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't do that. So this issue is here in front of us tonight that, again, probably shouldn't be. And I'm not going to support anything that could be potentially harmful to the LGBT community. That's part of our community, part of our economy, and they're part of us. So the city has progressed too much throughout the years. We have got a lot of positive things going on from the hard work of this council and previous councils. We've come a long way. There are a lot of good things going on. And we can't be set back by perception that we may be discriminatory. Although I think Councilor Elliott's motion is not discriminatory. I don't believe it is. Or is he discriminatory? But this city, I don't want to be held back with the progress that we've been making. So with that being said, I feel it's necessary to make a substitute motion in support of this transgender bill that has been adopted by the state Senate, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Substitute motion. We have a substitute motion by Councilor Belanger to have the council go on record as in support of Senate 735. Motion seconded by Councilor Samaras. Discussion on the substitute motion. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. The one thing that you've stated here and has been stated, when people come together and talk about government, and talk about complex issues, sometimes it can get heated. But our country, our government works because you can have different ideas, come together, have a discussion about them, and hopefully a sound resolution. My stance on this is basically simple. I looked at Senator Donahue's discussion about this matter, and she stated clearly it's just about civil rights and how people are and treating people equally. The issue with us as city councilors, and what I've learned as a relatively new city councilor, when you run for office, you generally try to follow the popular trends to help yourself get elected. But once elected, you have to make very tough decisions sometimes. But part of making tough decisions, I think we have to ensure that we protect every group. So my concern is that I will support Councilor Belanger's motion because I think it's the right thing to do to ensure that every group in our Commonwealth, every group in our city, every group that has helped make Lowell the place to be. We want to be seen as we talk about being a place that is accepting. We have to show that we're accepting. Lowell does have a great history. When you look at Lowell High School, the first black student accepted at Lowell High School. Prior to that, the first woman student at Lowell High School. Lowell High School in the city of Lowell has always been an accepting city, and we have to make sure, in my opinion, these are all about opinions and stances. It's not, I'm against so-and-so, I'm against this person, or this person's against me. It's about trying to make a decision that's best for the community. And I think supporting of this bill is the right way to go. These decisions are sometimes difficult, they're complex. People take offense at what we do sometimes. People get angry at what we do sometimes. But we're always trying to do the right thing. When you try to do the right thing, sometimes it's hard to determine what is the right thing. So I think people have to vote in their heart what they believe is right. And I believe that this is a group that has been long discriminated against, and we have to show support in the proper way. And I support Councilor Belanger's substitute motion. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the substitute motion? Councilor Milanazzo, then Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you. Just briefly, let me begin by thanking everyone for coming out this evening. I certainly did learn a great deal this evening, and I respect their opinions. I'm going to support the substitute motion. I think it should be stated that the bill that was passed by the Senate did receive broad business support. Some of the largest employers in the Commonwealth supported the bill. And I respect Councilor Elliott's position relative to the issue of safety, but the law enforcement community also came out. The Massachusetts Chiefs of Police Association supported the bill. The Chiefs of Police in 13 communities supported the bill, and our Attorney General Maura Healey supported it as well. And again, I just think that we have made such great strides in this community that I think that by supporting this substitute motion just reinforces our ability to be inclusive. So I plan to support the substitute motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Leary.
I'm going to support the substitute motion as well. I do respect Councilor Elliott. I don't believe that he's prejudiced. I think Councilor Belanger articulated that very well. I think as you go through life and you meet more folks and you learn more about other people, you become more, I guess, intelligent or more knowledgeable of it. I wasn't like this as well as accepting of other people when I was much younger and much more ignorant, I think is the correct way of saying it. You know, it over time you learn that everybody really has struggles. And it's our job as a city council to support folks that are in the minority when they are facing struggles. And in fact, not just struggles, but actual violence. I think the substitute motion sends a message that we do support the entire community. I think it's important that the council take that initiative to support the Senate. Initially, when I saw the motion, I was simply just going to vote no. I thought it wasn't a place for the council to actually take that step and actually articulate that to the state Senate or to our state representatives. It's not what we do in the city council. But giving the fact that we are in this position at this point in time, I think it's imperative that we send a message to the folks who have not only come out here tonight, but the folks that are out in the city or throughout the state. For me, it wasn't an economic issue. It's important. I ran because of economic issues, but it's not about an economics. It's about doing the right thing. There's a lot of folks out there that don't agree with what the city council does tonight. I'm cognizant of that. But it's about setting an example and beginning the steps of helping people understand better. I think the positions that the law enforcement in this state have taken clearly show that it's not women who are going to be assaulted. It could potentially going to be transgender people who are going to be assaulted. So I think it's important at this point in time that we take that message and we take that vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rourke.
I'd like to once again thank everybody for coming out tonight. Mr. Mayor, they've been there for almost 3 hours. I would request a roll call, please.
Okay, Councilor Leahy.
Sure, quickly. I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Everything that's a lot's been said tonight from everybody that came down and everybody on the council. Appreciate the different opinions, and again, tonight we're here to try to do the right thing. I think that Councilor Elliott, in his motion, he defined what he was against. But I think what we have to remember too is, we're going to support this Senate bill, but it goes to the House and I believe to the governor and then becomes law. So this could end up being a lot different in a couple of months or so. But the main thing here tonight is, we're not going backwards, we're going forward, and that's what we're voting on tonight. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Roll call on whose motion?
Roll call on substitute motion. If the substitute motion prevails, then the main motion would be dead, would be moot.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
No.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
8 yeas.
We'll call. Take a 2-minute recess.
James.
Hey.
How are you?
Yeah.
Bigger, better came out of this. Yeah. It's great. It's awesome. Yeah? It's good.
They're gonna paint my place this year.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Motion to accept the cheat sheet.
Yeah.
It's moved pretty quick.
Let me ask Rita. Rita will do that. Let's pull some errors.
There's a couple of the managers probably gonna make a note that they changed. One of the ordinances has changed some language.
Okay.
The finance one. And the budget one, we just had a typo. That's what's-
You good to go? These little 3-minute recesses turn into 8 minutes. Oh, is that right? Yeah. Is that who that was? All right, we'll call the meeting back into session and start with communications from the city manager. This evening, we have communications A through F. G was, we already dealt with G a little earlier, so we'll start with the district and Superior Court disposition. Is there any comment on that, Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to thank the manager for his timely response on this issue. Now, the reason I brought it up is that, you know, when the judicial center gets complete in approximately 2 years, you know, that leaves the Superior and District Court vacant. So, you know, with middle school shortages and a police station being looked at, I thought that this perhaps could alleviate maybe both of those situations. It may not suit our needs, but it might. So I thought it should be looked at. But so the manager followed through with the delegation. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Manager. But at the same time, it seems like it's going to be placed, well, sort of well on the back burner. I know there's a process. It has to be declared surplus by the state and legislative approval. But Mr. Manager, being in the State House for 17 years, knows better than I. So, Mr. Manager, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager, could you give me a little education on why this is sort of being put on the back burner for a year or so, if you don't mind? Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Well, first of all, they can't declare a property surplus while it's still in use. So the Superior Court and the District Courts are still in use. So once they're vacated, then they can declare it surplus. They offer it to state agencies first, and if a state agency isn't interested in it, then they'll offer it to the local municipality. But if the local municipality doesn't have any interest in it, then they will do an RFP to private entities. But they can't declare it surplus until it's actually vacant. So that's why they have to wait.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That tells all right there. But, you know, maybe, you know, near completion of the cornhouse, if we can sit with DCAM and sort of plant a seed 6 months prior to completion, let them know we have interest, maybe that could expedite the process. It may not, but a conversation certainly never hurts. So it's something I'll put in the memoirs, and we'll revisit approximately 18 months from now. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on item A? If not, moving on to item B, the pedestrian light at Arbor Road in Andover Street. Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. I appreciate the report. If you recall, this suggestion for Arbor Road actually came from a constituent that lives off of Andover Street on the other side, walking his child to the Riley School. And in looking at the report and talking about putting the improvements to Andover Street in a complete streets program, I guess I'm just looking for the timing of that at this particular point. And it looks like whatever we do relative to a pedestrian light or a crosswalk would be at the corner of Douglas and in Andover Street, but what would the timing of that be if we could do that? I know there's a bigger project much bigger, but I'm not sure that the parents of the children at the Sullivan and the Riley want to wait for that bigger project. Because if the bigger project is 1, 2, 3, or 4 years out, they're going to end up sending their kids somewhere else.
Mr. Manager.
No, we're still looking for funding for the other 2 lights that the principals think would be better for the schools. We're not putting that on the back burner. We're still looking for funding resources for that. But we're just saying that it doesn't seem that the Arbor Road is
Right.
the premier spot. It's the Draper Street and the Douglas Road. So we are still looking for funding resources for that.
great.
The concentration we're going to have on Andover Street immediately is the repaving of it. Well, when I say repaving, the repair of it, not with asphalt, but with concrete to make sure that it's a much flatter and smoother surface. But we're not ignoring the traffic signalization. We are going to work on that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Councilor Leahy, then Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. Through you to the manager. So, when they're, I understand what Councilor Milnaz is saying, but they're talking about in the report of moving the crosswalk maybe to Draper Street. I mean, I live over there, so I kind of don't understand that logic, because more kids go to the Riley School and cut over to the Sullivan in the back. But in the drawing also, like, are they showing eventually they'd like to put a divider down the road and fill that? Okay. Because I don't know if that would pass through the neighborhoods either, but that's down the road, right? So right now, we're looking at the crosswalks. Okay. So do you think this will come up again, or are we just gonna put it in? We're not, okay. So we'll have a little discussion if it goes at Arbor, Draper, or Douglas.
Seeing the cost of the island and everything is over $7
Yeah.
million, we'll have another conversation of it before it's put in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when do you think this light, and if we're gonna have any say on it, like from the neighborhood where it might go? Because I can maybe understand what they're saying about Draper, but to me, being in the neighborhood doesn't make any sense. More kids cross at that Douglas or Arbor because they enter through the back side of the Sullivan, so nobody's really going up to Draper, Draper. So Arbor would be more used as much as Douglas, and Draper is more cars driving up there. So I'd like to see the light either where it is at Douglas or over by Arbor, and so I'd like to have a little more discussion on that when time comes up to discuss that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott.
I just had a question. So that's a state road, Mr. Manager, so are we using Chapter 90 funds, city funds, or would that just be completely reimbursed from the state to repair the Andover Street?
Mr. Manager.
Can I ask Lisa DeMayo to, I believe it's capital funds, but can you confirm the?
So that the repairs are coming from capital.
Right.
Andover Street is a numbered route, but it's a city-owned street. It's not owned by the state.
So the entire, say from, I don't know, the entire route from Nesmith all the way out to Tewksbury
The
is?
entire length is.
It's a city, but it's our street?
It's city-owned, yes.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't know that.
Any further discussion on item B? If not, moving on to item C, which is traffic supervisor. Any discussion on item C? Hearing none, we'll move on to item D, test the drinking water at Lowell schools. Any discussion on that? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. This is a motion I filed, and I can see that Eric Gitchia, the executive director of water plant, he and Mr. McGovern, they need some information from the head of facilities, and you've met, and that is forthcoming in order to respond to the RFI process. So just want to let people know that this is Mr. Manager, I don't know if you have more of an update, but the process is underway, and we're going to begin the application process of fund to test for lead in the schools. Okay.
Yes,
Go ahead, Mr. Manager.
Yes, this is very timely, as I said before, because if you see what's happening in Boston right now is that they're shutting down bubblers in the schools and not allowing the children to use it. So it's imperative that we test the water and make sure that it's safe for the children. We already do test the water, but it's very expensive. It's $30 per test. So when you go into a school, there are multiple bubblers in a school, so it is a very costly endeavor to test the water. So if we get this grant, it will really be helpful to eradicating any issues.
Great, thank you.
Any further discussion on this? If not, moving on, the impact of the Brownfields Redevelopment Fund. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll move on. The next item is informational from the city manager, the governor's community compact energy best practice. Mr. Manager.
I know we've been here, but I'd like Catherine Moses just to come up and give a very brief summary of especially the errors that you've found and the savings that you've made relative to reviewing our energy costs.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Thank you, City Council. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to be a part of the City of Lowell. And I just thank you for your foresight in being able to support, first of all, the grant that funded this position, and then going forward, I thank you for just having someone in this position. And so it's been really interesting. About a year ago, I began processing a lot of the bills within the city, a lot of the utility bills within the city. And a lot of times I know that when people process bills, if somebody says, well, this is what you owe, you pay what you owe. But what I was finding is that some of the usage numbers and some of the balances that were shown on that were not really adding up. And so that's when I started investigating more. And like the informational session says, that's where I found over $146,000 worth of errors. Some of them had actually been going on for several years. When we went and looked at National Grid, we had them look at several of them for us, and there were some that went back to 2008 and 2009. They had misapplied payments, there were estimated readings. Sometimes these things were corrected on the bills, but it just shows as a credit. And so we had requested that they refund those to us because it was going to take forever for them to wind down. In other cases, you had, for example, an account that usually billed at 0 kilowatt hours that was suddenly billing at 55,000 kilowatt hours. And so noticing those kinds of things and having them go back and correct those has been really a very eye-opening thing, and that's why we're really excited to have the Governor's Community Compact. We're really excited to be able to invest in this data management system to catch more of those errors before they actually occur. And so in that way, we can make sure that we're being good stewards of the city's resources, and we can do these things in a lot more efficient ways. And so I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, the chair would entertain a motion to accept the communications from the city manager and place them on file. We have a motion to that effect by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Leary. Discussion on the motion. Councilor Elliott.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had one question. So, were the bills from National Grid, were we overbilled or and how will we prevent that from happening in the future?
That's an excellent question. In a lot of the cases, we were actually overbilled, and it says about 33% of the costs that were canceled in that we never actually paid, because I noticed the anomaly before I paid the bill, and I would have National Grid go out and recheck the meter. The most recent error that I found like that was in one of our natural gas accounts, where we had done an energy efficiency upgrade on this particular account, and the usage was more than it had ever been in prior years. When I had them go back and check the meter, there were 2 months of usage that were actually less than what they had billed us for the single month. And in some cases, that might have been, if I weren't watching the bills, that might have been a cost that may have been paid and incurred. But because I had them go back and get the bill, and recheck it. We didn't actually pay those costs, they just showed up as canceled costs. And so going forward in the future with what the Governor's Community Compact will allow us, it will actually catch those remotely. You can put in different kinds of audits for it if it shows variations over this percentage versus previous years, then that's something I can contact National Grid immediately and get that taken care of so that we're not paying any extra costs. And there were some, like for instance, the ones that went back, the errors that went back to 2008 and 2009, those actually had been paid and it just showed up as a credit on the bill running forward all those years until we asked for the refunds back.
Okay, great. Just another question, Mr. Mayor. So on our solar field at our old landfill,
Yes.
is it possible to get a report on how much energy we're producing and how much the city is either getting in a credit or how much we're putting in the grid? And
Absolutely, I would
Okay.
be happy to run those numbers for you. I monitor those on a monthly
great.
basis, and I could write an update for you on the solar landfill, particularly the landfill solar, or are you interested in our other net metering credits
I
as
think
well?
the other one would be too, but I don't want to, at least the solar, I think the landfill would be helpful.
I would be glad to do that for you. Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, on the motion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next is a communication by the city manager requesting out-of-state travel for 2 people. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion by Council Milonazo to approve, second by Council Rourke. Discussion on the motion, all in favor, all opposed, roll call.
Roll call.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote to authorize the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with Local 1705. If there's no objection, we waive the first reading by general consent and go to the second reading, authorizing the city council to ratify and approve the execution of the city manager of memorandum of understanding between the city of Lowell and Local 1705, Council 93, AFL-CIO, covering the period of July 1, 2015 through June 30th, 2018. Mr. Manager?
Very briefly, this is one of the largest unions that we have in the city, and we have resolved negotiations with them accepting what other unions have accepted for pay 0, 3, and 3. And as you remember, this is one of the unions we had the real problem with the overtime during the terrible blizzard, and that issue has been resolved also with the universal overtime settlement agreement. So this is good news, and I recommend strongly that we approve this memorandum of understanding.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve? Motion approved by Council Elliott, seconded by Council Belanger. Discussion on the motion, roll call.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next item is a vote to accept the timely submission of the budget for fiscal year 2017. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full first reading and go to the second reading. Pursuant to the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 32, the City Council of the City of Lowell acknowledges timely receipt from the city manager on May 17, 2016, of the recommended budget for the City of Lowell for fiscal year 2017. We have a motion to approve or to accept the budget by Council Leary, seconded by Council Leahy. Discussion on the motion.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager. The operating budget proposal is $340,931,235. But on the other side, we have $11,100,415. But it says capital budget is for the fiscal year. What is, now, later on, down the line, we have a loan order for $7 million. That's not part of that 11, oh, it is? Okay. That's what I'm asking.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you. For the first time in memory, is that we're doing the operating budget and the capital budget together.
Right.
Because it just makes sense, is that the two go hand in hand. So what we're doing is we're we're going to be authorizing, or asking you to authorize to spend $11 million in capital expenses. However, only $6 million will be only $7 million will be paid from the Citizens of Lowell funds, where the rest of the money will be paid with state and federal grants.
Okay.
So it's $11 million total, but only 7 will come from the
Which
residents
is what
of
we're
Lowell.
voting on further down.
Right, May 31st.
Okay, sure, public hearing on that.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Leahy?
Yes.
Counselor Leary?
Yes.
Counselor Mercia?
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Rourke?
Yes.
Counselor Samaras?
Yes.
Counselor Belanger?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next item is a vote approving the budget for fiscal year 2017. The first reading, and we'll waive the first reading, and we need a motion to refer to a public hearing on May 31st, 2017. We have a motion to that effect by Councilor Leary, seconded by Councilor Samaras. Discussion on the motion. Roll call. Okay, all in favor of the motion? All opposed? So voted. Next is a vote to rescind the Lowell Memorial Auditorium Enterprise Fund, effective 6/30/2016. We need a motion to refer that to a public hearing for May 31st as well at 7 p.m. We have a motion by
Move approval.
Council Rourke, seconded by Council Milonazo to do that. All in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. Next.
Excuse me,
Yes.
through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager, why are we terminating this enterprise fund?
It's an excellent question. Basically, about 3 years ago, the council adopted an enterprise fund to fund the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. And just like the other enterprise funds, like the parking, the wastewater, the water utility, enterprise funds are designed to fund themselves and to carry all their expenses. And if they don't meet their expenses, just like we were talking about earlier about the sewer use, then we have to raise taxes to fund that enterprise deficiency. And you got to go right to the raise taxes to do it. Right now, the Lowell Memorial Auditorium isn't self-sufficient. It isn't operating like an enterprise fund. So this makes it easier for us, rather than having, if they operate in a deficit, rather than turning to the taxpayers of the city of Lowell to fund their deficit with taxes, they're going to have to sit down with us, and they're going to have to negotiate with us how we're going to help them out of our general fund. But that would, if we left it as an enterprise fund, any deficit by them would automatically have to be funded by the taxpayers. And that's not a good thing to do based upon the recent history of the auditorium. So this is just a better way of managing the budget there. And
I
we're gonna
hope we remember this at public hearing time.
Well, Bob
Maybe I
Healy will
should have
be
said
here.
that.
Bob Healy will be here to
Okay.
remind. This is his brainchild,
Okay,
and
thank
he'll be
you.
here to do it.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Mr. Manager, I understand the logic behind getting rid of the enterprise fund. So we make an annual appropriation to the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. If they run the deficit, what obligation do we have? Because I thought it was pretty clear in the contract or the renegotiated contract that, you know, this is what our contribution is, and the rest is on you. And if you experience or generate a deficit, then that's on you. Does the city pay the bills over there? Does the city pay utilities, or what's the process, I guess?
Mr. Manager.
Thank you. That part of the contract dealing with the deficit expires next year. So we're doing this in anticipation of having to negotiate with them further relative to their deficit. But if we were to leave it just as an enterprise fund, we'd just have to pick up whatever they lose over there.
Okay.
So it's really in
Oh, no,
anticipation.
I think this is a wise move, and I understand the logic behind it, but we're not, okay.
But we'll have to, right now, they cover all their deficit, but this is in anticipation of what's going to happen down the road and how we deal with it.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager, just an FYI purpose, more or less. Mr. Manager, how are we coming out with the comprehensive motion that I made on the floor about the repairs to the auditorium? How far have we come along with that?
Mr. Mayor, if I just have Diane Trad, would you just explain what we're doing relative to the current cost of repairs?
Sure. We had a report done many years ago that outlined every little piece of the auditorium and what needed to be done. We're taking that report and going through and updating it, because to have it redone would cost us a lot of money. So we're doing it in-house.
Well done. That's great thinking, Diane. Great job. We'll be anxiously awaiting your report. It will not be good news, but we need to know either way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is a vote authorizing the city manager to execute a license for sidewalk seating for Mill City Suds Incorporated at 76 Merrimack Street. If there's no objection, we'll waive the first reading by general consent to go to the second reading, authorizing the city manager to execute a license agreement between the City of Lowell and Mill City Suds Incorporated for use of a portion of the city property adjacent to the premises at 76 Merrimack Street in Lowell for the purpose of sidewalk seating. We have a motion to approve by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Rourke. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I saw this vote authorizing the manager to execute a license for sidewalk seating for Mill City Suds, I thought it was a little bit odd that we were allowing sidewalk seating for a laundromat, but it's a restaurant, so I take that back.
Any further discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Counsel Leahy?
Yes.
Counsel Leary?
Yes.
Counsel Mercia?
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo?
Yes.
Counsel Rourke?
Yes.
Counsel Samaras?
Yes.
Counsel Belanger?
Yes.
Counsel Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next is an order for, there's no objection, we'll waive the first reading, go to the second reading. Pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances in the City of Lowell, Massachusetts concerning Section 266-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, Temporary Traffic Regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion approved by Councilor Rourke, second by Councilor Mercia. Discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Counsel Leahy?
Yes.
Counsel Leary?
Yes.
Counsel Mercia?
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo?
Yes.
Counsel Rourke?
Yes.
Counsel Samaras?
Yes.
Counsel Belanger?
Yes.
Counsel Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
9 yeas.
The next item is a loan order for the fiscal year 2017 capital improvements. It's to borrow the amount of $7,360,320 for the purpose of financing various capital improvements and any related architectural and engineering services in connection therewith, and any costs incidental and related to thereto. Chair would entertain a motion to refer to a public hearing for May 31st. We have a motion by Council Leahy to refer to a public hearing, seconded by Council Samaras. Discussion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next on our ordinances from the city manager, we have an ordinance to amend Chapter 272, the annual sewer charge in the city. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full first reading by general consent and go to the second reading. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances in the city of Lowell, Massachusetts with respect to Chapter 272, Article 6, Section 272-87, entitled Annual Sewer Use Charge. Chair would entertain a motion to refer to public hearing by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. Discussion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next is an ordinance to create a finance department, reorganize various financial departments, create a budget department, and create a new position in salary entitled Deputy Chief Financial Officer. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full first reading. Refer the motion to a public hearing on May 31st. We have a motion by Councilor Milonazo to refer to public hearing, seconded by Councilor Rourke. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, under subcommittee reports, we have two subcommittee reports. One is for the Neighborhood Subcommittee.
Yep.
Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. May 11th, we had the subcommittee meeting, neighborhood subcommittee meeting at the Belvedere Neighborhood Group at the Sullivan School. Present was John Gear, Belvedere Neighborhood Group leader. Also in attendance was Fire Chief, Police Chief, City Manager, Assistant City Manager, Building Inspector, Sean Shanahan, Councilor Samaras, Councilor Mercia, Councilor Milonazo, Councilor Leary. I don't know if Councilor Belanger made it, Councilor Elliott. So the discussion, we had a discussion for about half hour or so with the police and fire chief, talking about their efforts working together on different issues across the city, the opiate epidemic, just fire-related safety issues, police safety issues in the neighborhood, talking about the patrols and various things. They took a lot of questions, spent a lot of time. Everybody was very happy with the discussion. The city manager spoke for half hour or so, fielded a lot of questions, just general neighborhood questions about traffic, the budget, and various questions. He was very gracious. He spent a lot of time with the neighbors. And also, I think Mr. Shanahan got up again and spoke about some landlord issues in Belvedere and throughout the neighborhood. So the meeting adjourned about 8:10. Mr. Gear and the neighborhood group was very happy that we had the subcommittee meeting at the Sullivan School. Thank you.
Thank you. There was also, we have a subcommittee report meeting for the Finance Subcommittee of May 17th, early this evening. Councilor Elliott? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Milonazo, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I was, Councilor Milazzo going to give the report. I missed my early train, so I was late for the subcommittee meeting. By the time I got here, it already concluded on both the auditor report and sewer rate, and I have to vote present on the sewer rate anyway, to disclaim my work for DEP. So, thank you, Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I did my best to fill in for our chairman, Councilor Elliott. Also in attendance, we had Councilor Leary, the other member of the subcommittee. Also, we had Councilor Samaras, Councilor Mercier, and Councilor Leahy as well. And City Manager Murphy had his team here, Connor Baldwin, Rodney Connolly, and Mark Young, who did a presentation regarding the sewer rate increase. We started off by hearing from our new city auditor, Brian Perry, who talked about the 10 months of fiscal year 16, and we're on track. We're at about 77.3% year-to-date through April. Nothing jumps out at the Finance Subcommittee, again, unless Councilor Elliott had some questions relative to the report. But overall, we're on track to finish the year strong, and I want to thank the auditor for his input and his report. The second part of the meeting had to do with the FY17 sewer rate. We got a very good presentation from the city manager's team regarding the fact that we had have a $40 million loan order dealing with the CSO project. Mark Young talked about the current status of that, answering questions from Councilor Mercier. He indicated that we were able to renegotiate the intermunicipal agreements with the towns, and the towns now will be contributing a higher share of the debt service for the CSO work. And the administration was able to have Mark Young and his team put some operating expense controls in place. And for FY16, the expenses were $1.6 million. For FY17, they're going to be $1.2 million. We're moving forward with the initiative, and I know we can't say too much because we're having a public hearing on the 31st regarding the sewer rates, but it's our hope to be able to borrow monies from the Mass Clean Water Trust at an interest rate of 2%, and based upon our AAA bond rating, we'll be able to access those particular rates. And I think that based upon the fact that we're going to be able to borrow that money at that reduced rate, and the fact that we'll be able to manage the wastewater enterprise fund going forward, that probably within 3 fiscal years, starting probably by fiscal year 20, we may be able to not have to continue to raise sewer rates. In fact, we could actually potentially reduce sewer rates. If we are successful, and again, subject to public hearing, the average increase per quarter for the homeowner here in the city would be about $22 per quarter. So again, we're one of the lowest sewer rates in the Commonwealth. Again, we provide a very good service to, to the residents and to the area town. So again, as a report of progress, we are looking forward to the public hearing on the 31st and able to, in order for us to be able to move forward and able to fund that work going forward. So unless my colleagues have anything else to add, that's a report of progress from the Finance Subcommittee.
Thank you. Councilor Leary?
Just quickly, first, I'll hold my remarks regarding the sewer project and the increases to the public hearing. But I do want to commend the city auditor for starting to reach out and building relationships with the financial team and on the city side. But equally as important, as we discussed during the finance subcommittee meeting, reaching out and touching base with the school department, which makes up just about 50% of our overall budget. So I think equally important that you have those relationships. I think you made that position that you've reached out, have already met with them. As we go forward next year, it's going to be imperative that we make sure, because we have a new auditor, a new financial team on the school side, that we're communicating effectively, which I think optimistic that that's going to occur. But I do want to commend Councilor Milanazzo for an excellent meeting, and I think we'll discuss more about the rates and more about the proposal that the manager had at the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Chair would entertain a motion to accept the reports as a report of progress. We have a motion to that effect by Councilor Samara, seconded by Councilor Rourke. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, we have, under petitions, we have one property claim. Chair would entertain a motion to refer to the Law Department for a report and recommendation. We have a motion to that effect by Councilor Leary, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, under fuel storage, the Markley Group requests a license for storage of flammables at 2 Prince Avenue for 32,000 gallons of diesel 2 fuel. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full first reading and refer this to a public hearing on June 14th, 2016 at 7 p.m. We have a motion referred to a public hearing by Councilor Milanazzo, seconded by Councilor Rourke. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, we have from the National Grid and Verizon Northeast, we have a request permission to relocate a JO pole 34 north of the current location and to install a SO pole on the east side of Lawrence Street. If there's no objection, we'll waive the first reading, and Councilor Rourke.
Before we move along, I see the next two petitions have to do with Verizon. I know that Councilor Leary had a subcommittee hearing just a little while ago. When Verizon was here, he asked multiple questions concerning FiOS and jobs that may be leaving Lowell. In talking to him before the meeting tonight, he's got no answers back from Verizon. I would put a motion that we table all Verizon petitions until those answers come in to Councilor Leary.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilor Rourke to table items 7.3 and 7.4 until the subcommittee hears from Verizon, seconded by Councilor Leary. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, from National Grid is, did you mean 3? Do you want to do all 3, or is this is different?
7.3, 7.4.
Okay. So moving on to 7.5, the National Grid requests permission to install approximately 125 feet of 2-inch to 4-inch conduit encased in concrete on Lawrence Street. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full first reading, and the chair would entertain a motion to refer this to a public hearing for June 14th, 2016. We have a motion by Councilor Belanger to do that, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, under council motions, we have a motion by Councilor Mercer to request the city manager of proper department explore the possibility of naming the Shed Park Pavilion in honor of John Daniel Lord, if naming rights are available. We have a second by Councilor Rourke. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a motion that was requested by his family, brother and sister. They felt that this motion was deserving of a man who worked diligently, and as they told me, he worked for the city for 20-plus years at both Shed Park and Fort Hill Park. City officials in the park department says that he was a wonderful man, a great worker, was very kind and thoughtful. John Lord is now deceased. John Lord was a veteran of the Vietnam War, in which he received the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star. I believe that this is a fitting tribute for a man who not only served this city, but served his country as well. I believe if this passes, it would refer to the Board of Parks at the end of for the end of the month.
Okay, so you're asking to also refer to the Board of Parks?
Right, if the pavilion is,
You want to send it to the manager first and find out whether or
Sure.
not that's, okay.
but
All
I
right,
want to put that caveat in there too, to cover all bases if it's available, that we put it to the Board of Parks if
Okay.
it's available. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. All right, under item 8.3 is a motion by Councilor Belanger, request that the city manager update the city council regarding the joint marketing plan of the city of Lowell and UMass Lowell and the Lowell plan. Second by Councilor Rourke. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager and my colleagues, that we embarked on a marketing campaign in the middle to late of 2015 that was a collaboration between the city, the University of UMass Lowell, and the Lowell Plan that all pooled funds for a joint marketing campaign. So I would just like to know, although I've seen bits and pieces on the radio and magazine, and now that we're on the subject, I want to congratulate Mr. Manager. You had a very positive write-up in Merrimack Valley Magazine this month. You shined. Well done. So I see ads in that, and I see bits and pieces, but I'd like an all-inclusive report, Mr. Manager, of everything that we've paid for, we participated in, how much we've spent, and what's in the coffers remaining. So I think it's important as how we go forward, and maybe how we're gauging the, we're trying to, this is an image campaign more or less, so how you gauge that, I'm all ears. But, so I'm just curious to see where we're at with it. It's important, and how we can improve on it. So I look forward to the response. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion of the evening is a motion with three sponsors, myself, Councilor Samaras, and Councilor Belanger. And the motion is to request that the city manager approve a resolution, that the city council approve a resolution requesting the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, that the Massachusetts Department of Transportation includes the monies necessary for an environmental study for the Rourke Bridge in the capital plan for 2017, and requests that the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments approve a similar resolution, and that Councilor Belanger invite the representatives of Drake, Chelmsford, Tingsboro, and other surrounding communities to submit similar resolutions. The motion needs no second. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Thank you for the reading. I believe this is important. If the Department of Transportation doesn't approve this environmental study, we're going to lose the effect of the feasibility study and have to start all over again. And I think this is a time for this city to make a lot of noise regarding this issue. And I think this is very important on, setting a direction for the possible building of the bridge. We need this environmental study. So I think we have to do everything in our power to ensure that this happens, because right now what you have is in the Highlands, if it's 5 o'clock and you need to go to Lowell General, it's probably quicker to go to Leahy Clinic than Lowell General to try to cross that bridge. You have Cross River that's looking to expand its potential for new companies to come to Lowell. It's very difficult for them to settle there because of the bridge. So this bridge is important to not only the economic development of this area, but the health and well-being of that whole area, the Pawtuckaville Highlands area. So I think this is the right direction to go in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was well said by Councilor Samaras. I want to thank the manager in the law department for coming up with a resolution that I will be taking to the NEBCOG meeting tomorrow night and asking my fellow colleagues on the council for support, especially in those communities that are directly affected, such as Chelmsford, Drake, and Tingsboro. I'm going to be leaning on them, asking them for their support on this, because it's just as important to them as it is us. We cannot achieve this alone. This shouldn't be just our problem. I said that time and time again. And as you alluded to, Mr. Mayor, last week, that there is strength in numbers. Okay, so we need a detailed report here that this is not only a traffic issue, this is a public safety issue where ambulances cannot cross that bridge during rush hour. And that is a safety hazard. So we need testimonies from ambulance companies, hospitals, employers, elected officials to get this done. So it's important that we keep the ball rolling, we put up a fight for this environmental study, which I intend on doing tomorrow night, making a solid case at NEMCOG, and I will report back to my colleagues next meeting. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion? All opposed? So voted. Last motion of the evening is a motion by myself requesting that city manager contact the State House delegation regarding advocating for funds for the Massachusetts Department of Transportation capital plan for FY 2017 for an environmental impact study for the new Rourke Bridge. Second by Councilor Rourke. I think the motion speaks for itself. Any further discussion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Does anybody have any announcements? Hearing no announcements, Chair would, Councilor Belanger.
One quick one, Mr. Mayor. This Saturday, the Megan House is going to be having a bike run for those motorcyclists that are in the audience. It will start at 8 a.m. out of Jokers in Drake, going on a 30-mile run and returning at 3 p.m. where the festivities will begin with a cookout, raffles and prizes and live entertainment. So for those of you who can't make, who don't ride a motorcycle, you can certainly come and partake in Saturday's good weather at Joker's Lounge in Drake and partake and support the Megan House with raffles and some promises to be a good time. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further announcements? Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Samaras. All in favor, all opposed? Stand adjourned.
Good job, Eddie.